She was a corporate spy, maneuvering through infrared security webs daily to steal trade secrets. One last mission, and she'd be financially free. I was just trying to steal something, and I blew myself up, and got transported to another world. And I've become this universally despised ugly woman, about to be married off to a fearsome prince. How will she charm everyone and clear her name? Wan Ruoli stared in surprise. Her target was a powder compact. It was too easy. Getting it this easily made her uneasy. Sure enough, the compact sprang open, revealing a small, glittering object. She stared. 2 seconds later, she heard, self-destruct sequence initiated. In a panic, Ruoli shoved the compact into her chest. Then, a massive explosion sent her flying. When she woke up again, she was hanging from a red cloth, looking like she'd committed suicide. Ruoli struggled, and the cloth ripped, sending her tumbling. Disoriented, Ruoli stared at her strange clothes. Who am I? Where am I? What am I supposed to do? Before she could figure it out, the door burst open, and a group of people stormed in. The woman in charge pointed at Ruoli. The prince's carriage is at the door. You're getting married, whether you like it or not. Ruoli was dumbfounded. Is this a play? Or did I time travel? Suddenly, a flood of memories rushed into her mind. This body's original owner was also named Wan Ruoli, but she was born with a face covered in birthmarks. Despised and bullied by everyone, only her mother offered warmth, but even she suffered scorn and abuse from Ruoli's father because of her daughter's ugly appearance, eventually dying from the mistreatment. Now, they were forcing her to marry a dying prince. Seeing Ruoli's resistance, they ordered their men to tie her up and take her to the prince's mansion. They didn't know the person before them wasn't the same. Before transmigrating, Wan Ruoli was a skilled fighter. Taking down this group was no problem. Within moments, they were at her feet. Impatient, the woman in charge ordered, Wan Ruoli, you wretched, short-lived, ugly girl. Tie her up. Beat her half to death if you have to. Ruoli's temper flared. Grabbing a candlestick, she declared, I'd rather die than marry. She brandished the candlestick. Come at me. I can take on 10 of you. Just when Ruoli thought she'd succeeded, an old woman appeared, striking her hard from behind. When she woke up again, she was in a wedding bed, draped in red. A strange man stood beside her. This was her husband, the prince. Before she could process this, the prince eagerly climbed on top of her, ready to consummate the marriage. Ruoli kicked out. Even with her professional fighting skills, she was no match for this man. Despite her experience, Ruoli flipped him over and grabbed the red bed curtains, trying to tie him up. But reality hit again. Instead, the prince tied her up tightly. Ruoli panicked, worried about her virginity. The prince, surprised by the rumored ugly girl's fighting skills and strange words, found her intriguing. He laid her on the bed, wanting to investigate further. But Ruoli had already freed her hands. She kicked again, but missed the prince. Instead, he pulled off her shoes and effortlessly pinned her down. Ruoli instantly felt weak. Just as she thought she was done for, a dart flew in from outside. The prince swiftly dodged, and Ruoli instinctively caught it. What is this thing? The prince was surprised by the assassination attempt. They are impatient, aren't they? But he was even more surprised by his bride. Catching a dart barehanded. Is this really the useless Wan Ruoli from the Wan family? Head investigated her. She was supposed to be an ordinary, sheltered young woman. When did she learn martial arts? Suddenly, the small object from the compact jumped out, startling Ruoli. What's going on? Relax, it's just my escape pod. You blew me up, sending us both to this time. Remember to thank me for teaching you how to fight. And thank me again, I'm about to save your life. Otherwise, we're both stuck here. The prince, bewildered, muttered, what is she talking about? Ruoli realized only she could see the small object. At this moment, she didn't have time to think. The assassins outside could attack again at any time. The two of them looked at the red curtains and, at the same time, blew out the candles, their faces close as if about to kiss. Ruoli blushed, quickly stepping back. Stay away. The small object whispered an escape plan to Ruoli. Moments later, Ruoli told the prince to take off his clothes. Strange. She wouldn't let me touch her before, and now she's asking me to undress. Gathering her courage, Ruoli explained she wanted to wear the prince's clothes and lure the assassins away. In their current situation, the prince wasn't suitable to go out. He was an easy target. Look, the assassins can't see clearly inside. If they used tear gas or poison smoke, we're both dead. The prince stared at Ruoli, astonished by her resourcefulness. A sheltered young woman with such cunning. As if on cue, perhaps because of Ruoli's words, the assassins released poison smoke into the room. Ruoli reacted quickly, using her outer robe to contain the smoke. Hurry up and take off your clothes. Please. As the prince undressed, he teased her, amused by her sudden urgency. With the prince's clothes, Ruoli pulled out her high-tech makeup compact. The small object instantly projected various cosmetics. In moments, she transformed herself into the prince, exiting the room to confront the assassins. She was immediately met with a volley of darts. With surprising agility, she dodged the attack. An assassin jumped out, brazenly attacking the prince within the mansion. Ruoli remained calm, shouting, "Seize the assassin." The assassin heard a female voice and saw the prince's guards approaching. Realizing the trap, it was too late. The guards quickly subdued him. With Ruoli's help, the prince escaped unharmed, and the assassin was captured. But the prince was curious how Ruoli managed to look exactly like him. Ruoli, a bit embarrassed, replied, "It's a girl's magic trick." Women's secrets, to ancient eyes, instantly changing into another person's face, must have seemed like sorcery. Don't be so dramatic. It's just one of the 4 great Asian mystic arts. Makeup. The prince was baffled by Wan Ruoli. But such things are commonplace in the imperial family. Now that we've caught the assassin, I'll go and deal with him. We'll talk later. You'll have to sleep alone tonight. Ruoli was delighted. Such a big bed all to myself. Wonderful. Suddenly, she stopped the prince. As a reward, divorce me. The prince stared, incredulous at her absurd request. Aren't you afraid of being divorced on your wedding night, and becoming a disgrace? But for this, world's Wan Ruoli, she was already disgraced. Divorce me, and you can find a more beautiful, more useful wife. For the transmigrated Ruoli, this life of confinement and subservience was unbearable. She craved freedom. The prince, disagreeing, turned to leave angrily. As long as you're my princess, you'll serve the prince's mansion. Now, get some rest. What will it take for you to divorce me? The prince ignored her, closing the door behind him. Exhausted, Ruoli decided to sleep. Sleep is important. The small object scoffed. I've never met anyone so relaxed. Don't sleep. You just arrived. This place has an emperor. They kill people like it's nothing. Ruoli was too tired to care. Good night. Keep watch. I still don't know what to call you, she mumbled. The small object spun. Idiot. You stole me. Shouldn't you know that much? Call me system. Shiji, stop it. Wan Ruoli couldn't stop laughing, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, Shiji, I shouldn't laugh. The little thing felt embarrassed by her laughter. Rude. I'm leaving. Wan Ruoli thus spent her first night in this world. The next day, Wan Ruoli was sound asleep, when she was awakened by a commotion outside her door. She saw several gaudily dressed maidservants surrounding an older woman. Disdaining the hard-working, food-serving, and chamber-pot emptying old woman, the maidservants took advantage of their youth to bully and scold her in the courtyard. Even worse, they poured the water meant for the princess consort all over her. Wan Ruoli witnessed the whole scene. Some of the water even splashed onto her. The moment the maids saw the princess consort, they froze. Wan Ruoli, furious, shouted, "Keep it down. I'll call the property manager." No, wait, you are the property staff. It's only my second day here. I haven't fully adjusted yet. Though inherently kind, Wan Ruoli was moved by the old woman lying on the cold ground, drenched in water. Deeply empathetic, she gently asked, "Can you get up?" The old woman was fortunate enough to be personally helped up by the princess consort, and even received Wan Ruoli's support, who scolded the maids for their actions. The maids quickly knelt and begged for forgiveness. They had been specifically assigned to attend to Wan Ruoli's daily needs. Wan Ruoli, angered by their bullying, declared, "You've ruined my first impression of you. Get out of my sight." At this moment, the prince, Zun Yao, arrived, leaning on a crutch, coughing occasionally, appearing frail and sickly. Wan Ruoli wanted to give him an Oscar. He'd been perfectly fine last night, yet now he looked incredibly weak. Feigning weakness, the prince spoke haltingly, "I have important matters to attend to today." "Why are you here, idling about? Shouldn't you be preparing for the imperial summons?" Wan Ruoli was dissatisfied. "Are you going out? You're also in casual clothes, Prince." Zhang Yao didn't understand what she meant by casual clothes. Assuming the princess consort was not quite right in the mind, he simply told her, "The emperor has summoned us. Since I am unwell, you shall go to offer our thanks." He then turned to leave. However, Wan Ruoli, having just transmigrated, was completely clueless that she needed to enter the palace on the second day of her marriage. "What am I supposed to do there? You haven't explained anything." "Don't go." But the prince, cold and indifferent, didn't turn back. Wan Ruoli, turning back to the old woman, asked, "What's your name?" The old woman respectfully replied, "My name is Qiao Jiyu." Qiao Jiyu was frightened into a cold sweat as Wan Ruoli, the princess consort, draped her own clothes over the servant and whispered a secret message to her. Then, Wan Ruoli's expression changed as she snapped at the maids, "You don't need to come back tomorrow." Qiao Jiyu was inwardly surprised. She had heard that the eldest daughter of the Wan family was unruly and arrogant. Unexpectedly, she was not only elegant, but also stood up for a servant. Truly a peculiar person. Wan Ruoli, thinking about her upcoming meeting with the emperor, suddenly remembered the original owner's wicked younger sister, now an imperial concubine. An uneasy feeling arose. This palace visit did not bode well. Soon, Wan Ruoli, formally dressed, was ready to enter the palace, a thin veil covering her face. Seeing the woman beside the emperor, Wan Ruoli knew this was her younger sister, the one who had hit her with a vase, the one who had replaced her in the marriage to the emperor. Immediately, she knelt, "Wife of Prince Zhang Yao, Wan Ruoli, greets your majesty." "Thank you for your grace." The emperor, recently ascended to the throne, was a volatile man, prone to fits of rage. He scoffed, "What grace is there for you to thank me for?" Wan Ruoli calmly replied, "May your majesty and the prince enjoy happiness." The emperor was taken aback by her response. Then he burst into laughter. "Well said. With a wife like you, my brother will never be bored." Her sister, however, was not one to be outdone. She walked down with feigned kindness. "Sister, how are you? I was betrothed to the emperor by the late emperor and now, as a concubine, it's inconvenient for me to leave the palace. So, I asked His Majesty to summon you." She couldn't help but flaunt her status. Wan Ruoli, however, didn't care about the stolen concubine position. She only cared about one thing. "Can I get up now?" Her sister smirked. "So disrespectful even before His Majesty. This will be interesting." The emperor, intrigued, also smirked. He found this amusing and granted her permission to rise. Her sister, however, wasn't satisfied with this outcome. She wanted the emperor to witness Wan Ruoli's scarred face. Feigning sisterly affection, she moved to examine her sister's face. The emperor knew what she was up to. He said sternly, "Princess consort, why do you wear a veil? Are you afraid to show your true face?" Trouble was brewing. Her sister reached out to tear off Wan Ruoli's veil. Wan Ruoli instinctively backed away. "This wicked woman wants to humiliate me by revealing my scars. I'm not afraid." She clenched her fists, ready to punch her sister's lights out. Xie quickly intervened. "Don't do it. Attacking the emperor's concubine in front of him is a death sentence. Don't." "Xie, I have my own way. Watch me." Xie took out makeup and quickly began applying it to Wan Ruoli's face, skillfully concealing the scars and revealing a face that left her sister speechless. Her sister stared in disbelief. "What's going on? How did she suddenly become so beautiful?" Her sister stammered incredulously, You were supposed to be ugly. How is this possible? How is it not possible? I just know a little about makeup. Besides, it's basic courtesy for a lady to wear makeup on formal occasions. Don't you know that?" Her sister ground her teeth. "What are you talking about? You're just an ugly." The emperor interrupted her outburst, but not to help her. Brother, tell me, are you still able to partake in marital relations? Are you still able to perform your husbandly duties with the princess consort? Bring the bedsheets from the prince's mansion. Let's see if, after all these years of illness, my brother is still capable. Someone, go fetch them. The eunuch quickly obeyed. Wan Ruoli hadn't yet realized the gravity of the situation. Shiji sighed inwardly. We might be transmigrating again. This wasn't enough to make Wan Ruoli understand. You're a modern woman. You've seen historical dramas, haven't you? The emperor is testing you. If there's no blood on those sheets, we're dead. Now, Wan Ruoli finally understood. Panic set in. Blood? There definitely isn't any. The emperor, with a cruel smile, turned to Wan Ruoli. Princess consort, you have deceived your husband. Do you know your crime? Wan Ruoli, bewildered, innocently replied. How have I deceived my husband? Shiji facepalmed. We're doomed. He fainted from despair. Meanwhile, sister, now gloating, feigned concern. Sister, quickly kneel. Listen to me. Now is your chance to prove your innocence. Wan Ruoli was still confused, unsure how to prove her innocence. I guess I'll kneel. Her sister, pretending to be kind, pulled Wan Ruoli's hand, acting sisterly. I'm doing this for your own good. In reality, she was framing her, claiming she had illicit relations with the mansion guards and was no longer pure. Wan Ruoli looked at her innocently. I don't know anything about that. What are you talking about? Her sister's acting was Oscar-worthy, successfully deceiving the emperor into believing Wan Ruoli was having affairs. Disgusted, the emperor said, there's no need for further explanation. Since the princess consort has no defense, this matter is settled. For the sake of the royal bloodline, you shall be spared death. However, as he spoke, a eunuch presented a cup of poisoned wine, clearly prepared in advance. First the bedsheets, now poisoned wine. Panicked, she whispered to Shiji, can you conjure a gun? But Shiji had fainted. Besides Wan Ruoli, no one could see him. The emperor saw Wan Ruoli's hesitation. He ordered the guards to force her to drink the poison. Wan Ruoli refused to open her mouth. Just as they were struggling, a voice came from outside. The prince, Zun Yao, arrived slowly, leaning on his crutch. Zun Yao greets your majesty. He still appeared frail, each word spoken with effort. Wan Ruoli finally learned her husband's name. Was he here to save her? The prince always appeared weak in public, even struggling to kneel. Your majesty, I have brought what you requested from the mansion. The emperor, feigning politeness, said, my servants could have retrieved it. Inwardly, he was eager to see her punished. Although he knew the prince's condition, he acted indifferent. Princess consort, her sister smirked. Today is your day of reckoning. The emperor solemnly began to speak, making it seem as if Wan Ruoli's life hung in the balance. The prince, aware of the danger, calmly requested the emperor to examine the evidence before making a judgment. The eunuch unfolded the bedsheet before the emperor. Wan Ruoli was shocked. How could they so casually examine a newlywed couple's bedsheet? Weren't they embarrassed? The bloodstain on the sheet rendered the emperor and Wan Ruoli speechless. Wan Ruoli was even more baffled. Where did the blood come from? Her sister shrieked, Your Majesty, this is impossible. They didn't consummate their marriage last night. She immediately realized her slip-up and covered her mouth. How could an imperial concubine know the intimate details of the prince's mansion? The implications were clear. The emperor was displeased, but with this evidence, he couldn't convict Wan Ruoli. The prince's timely arrival had saved her. Her sister glared at Wan Ruoli. The woman actually had a backup plan. Wan Ruoli gave her a victorious smile. After all, anger shortens one's lifespan. Suddenly, she noticed the prince trembling beside her. What's wrong? She asked. The answer came from the emperor, who rushed to support the prince. Years ago, on the battlefield, my brother injured his knee. Has been unable to walk since. Please, he said, feigning concern, take good care of him, princess consort. The prince had come not only to save Wan Ruoli, but also to confess his own supposed transgression. I have come to ask your majesty for punishment. This unexpected turn of events surprised the emperor. "Brother, what transgression have you committed?" The king's manor was attacked. Qin apprehended the assassin, who absurdly claimed the emperor benefited from the attack. Such treasonous slander cannot be tolerated. I executed him on the spot. However, it is my failing that I haven't uncovered the conspiracy behind it. The emperor, though outwardly furious and condemning the assassin, secretly wished to flay Qin alive. Wan Ruoli silently applauded the king's boldness. Daring to kill someone connected to the emperor was a demonstration of defiance. However, she didn't want to be caught in the crossfire. The emperor couldn't openly move against the king, but he could use Wan Ruoli to deal with him. The emperor lifted Wan Ruoli's chin. "Royal sister, do you know? Your sister-in-law was renowned for her beauty in the capital, yet now she appears plain. Are you deliberately deceiving me?" Wan Ruoli trembled, petrified. This was absurd. How could this be considered a crime? Unexpectedly, the king lied for her. "My wife has looked like this since entering the manor. I know nothing of her past and wouldn't believe baseless rumors." The emperor suddenly burst into laughter. The king always presented himself as frail and spoke haltingly. Yet just now, he spoke a whole sentence without pause. Was his illness real or feigned? The emperor released his grip and turned to leave, telling the couple to return and rest. Leaving the palace, Wan Ruoli looked at the king's back. He dared to investigate the imperial tutor's family, Hes ruthless. "I'd better run away quickly." Shiji immediately agreed with both hands. "Your leaving is good for everyone. Didn't you notice the emperor wants to use the king against you?" Wan Ruoli considered this and grabbed the king's sleeve. "Thank you for lying for me and saving me." The king, pleased by her gratitude, smiled. "But, could you please consider my earlier proposal of leaving? Continuing like this is dangerous for both of us." The king's current mood was like having candy snatched away right after unwrapping it. He turned back angrily. "I only divorce, I don't allow leaving." Returning to their room, the king immediately grabbed Ruoli's hands and pinned her against the wall. "Unreasonable woman, from today onwards, you're not allowed to leave this courtyard without my permission." As a free-spirited, modern woman, how could she be confined? "What if I die? Can I be carried out then?" "Life and death in this manner are decided by me, Ruoli." Even angrier, Ruoli retorted, "The emperor and imperial consort already dislike me. Wouldn't it be easier for you if we separated? Keeping me will only hinder your plans, won't it?" The king already found Ruoli, a noble lady, strange, like a changed person. He certainly wouldn't let her leave now. He arranged for guards around the clock. Finally, he slammed the door shut, emphasizing his decision. Ruoli lay on the bed, pondering how to survive in this world. Then Qiao Jiu brought in some exquisite food for her dinner. Seeing Qiao Jiu, Ruoli had a new idea and grabbed his clothes. "I'm sorry, my transformation ability can only be used once a day. Don't mess around." Her hopes dashed, Ruoli was frustrated. "Why didn't you say so earlier?" Shiji, curled up, replied cutely, "I was designed for painting and disguise. Transforming someone completely consumes a lot of energy, and requires careful observation of the target. I can transform more frequently, but the effect isn't guaranteed." Ruoli realized the hasty transformation this morning must have used a lot of Shiji's energy, but she didn't care anymore. For freedom, for survival, she set her sights on Qiao Jiu. Staring intently at Qiao Jiu made him uncomfortable. Finally, Ruoli's overly sweet smile creeped Qiao Jiu out even more. As expected, she knocked him unconscious with a single chop. Then, Shiji painstakingly transformed Ruoli into Qiao-Gus likeness. To avoid implicating Qiao Jiu, she had to knock him out. Then, under the cover of darkness, Ruoli, disguised as Qiao Jiu, appeared on the manor's roof. Using her exceptional parkour skills, she observed the manor's layout, searching for an exit. Perhaps because she was too hasty, or the tiles were too brittle. A tile suddenly cracked and fell onto the manor grounds. This alerted the manor guards. Two of them broke out in cold sweat and froze, pretending to be statues. However, since when were there statues on the roof? The guards weren't fools. They yelled, "Catch the assassin!" Seeing that playing statue wouldn't work, Ruoli, in a panic, stepped on a loose tile and fell off the roof. Luckily, there was a pool below. Ruoli emerged, gasping. "Where am I?" She slowly opened her eyes. and saw the king, bare-chested, with 8-pack abs. He looked at her with amusement, wondering what she was up to now. Ruoli's makeup wasn't waterproof, revealing her true face. The king grabbed her. Realizing he was bathing, Ruoli blushed. "Don't come closer." She covered her face, and retreated further into the pool. Knowing her makeup was ruined, she didn't dare open her eyes. "You tricked me." I'm so embarrassed. The king was curious what trick she was playing now. Ruoli was too embarrassed to speak, only stammering in her awkwardness. Suddenly, the king covered her mouth. "We are husband and wife, there's no need for modesty. Stop shouting or the guards will come in." He pulled her closer. Ruoli, flustered, cried, "Put some clothes on." Just then, the guards' voices came from the doorway. To protect Ruoli, the king pushed her underwater. Ruoli held her breath, and saw things she shouldn't have. The guards entered. "My lord, we heard commotion outside. Did an assassin enter here?" The king, now dressed, glared at them. "Get out. Don't you know I'm bathing?" The guards hastily retreated. Unable to hold her breath any longer, Ruoli surfaced, gasping for air. The king stared intently. "Barely an hour, and you're climbing walls disguised as a servant girl. Are you the assassin?" Ruoli, flustered, demanded, "Stop staring. Give me a towel." The king, though unsure what a towel was, understood her intent. He gave her something similar. Ruoli, slightly relieved, thought, although he saw me exposed, I also saw him. He even gave me a towel, quite gently. She tried again. "I can't stay here. Let's just separate. Me leaving benefits us both. It's fine if we don't get divorced. It's okay to split the drama into dramas. It'll be good for both of us if I leave." The king didn't understand. How could a woman survive without a husband or family? The world is vast, but there's no true freedom anywhere. However, seeing Ruoli's persistence, the king relented. He'd let her leave, let her chase her freedom. When she hit rock bottom, she'd come crawling back. Ruoli, overjoyed, in leaving then. "Thank you." She climbed onto the roof and disappeared, leaving the king with the scattered roof tiles. Finally free to leave without his permission, she felt no joy, only guilt towards the king. Unbeknownst to her, danger lurked close behind. As Ruoli ran, she noticed she was being followed. Turning around, she saw 3 men in black. Ruoli became wary. "Why are you following me? Never seen a beautiful woman before." The 3 men ignored her, studying a portrait and discussing among themselves. "Strange, they look identical, but she has no birthmark. Are you the infamous Wang Fei of the king's manor?" Hearing this, Ruoli knew they were after her. She threw a random punch, preparing to escape over the rooftops. But the men reacted quickly, grabbing her clothes, preventing her escape. Resigned, Ruoli fought back fiercely. "Come on then. I won't go down easily." Ruoli fought like a seasoned warrior, pummeling the men in black. The men were stunned. This woman was too strong. By now, Ruoli had knocked down several men, her hair disheveled. She wanted to keep fighting, but forgot her current body was that of a delicate noblewoman. Fighting 2 men was already her limit. Seeing another man approaching, she decided to run. Suddenly, a speeding carriage appeared. Thinking it was connected to the men in black, she braced for impact. But then she saw a familiar face. Migu swiftly pulled her onto the carriage. Ruoli, embarrassed, apologized. "I knocked you unconscious earlier, I'm so sorry. And now you saved me, thank you so much." Migu chuckled, telling her not to worry. He had also left the king's manor, regained his freedom, and was returning to his hometown. Ruoli asked, "How could the king be so heartless to kick you out?" Migu explained the king had been lenient. In this era of imperial power, Qiao Jiyu could have been executed. The king, despite his eccentric personality, was kind at heart. Ruoli felt a pang of sadness. Life was cheap in this era, taken so easily. Qiao Jiyu, seeing Ruoli had nowhere to go, invited her to stay at his place temporarily. Touched, Ruoli was grateful someone was willing to take her in. Shiji, the little spirit fox, found it suspicious. Meeting on the road, then a sudden invitation, it felt too coincidental. Ruoli glared at Shiji. "Make up your mind. You said not to bother people, now you're suspicious. Also, look at Qiao Jiyu, he clearly looks like a good person." Ruoli gratefully accepted Kiaoga's offer. I have nowhere to go, so I'll impose on you for a while. Thank you. Ji sighed. So naive and trusting. My warnings are wasted on her. Arriving at Kiaoga's house, Ruoli asked, do you live alone? Kiao Jiu returned to the prince's mansion as a servant. Unmarried, her parents had long passed, leaving her only this house. Ruoli gave the sorted clothes to Kiao Jiu, who accepted them gratefully, not minding the dilapidated state of the room. After putting away the clothes, Ruoli fetched a broom, bucket, and cloth, intending to help Kiao Jiu clean. Kiao Jiu stopped her. You were a high and mighty princess. How can you do such menial work? Ruoli smiled. Don't stand on ceremony. I'm not a princess anymore. She then began sweeping. Kiao Jiu sighed. You're a strange noble, just like the prince. Ruoli retorted, what's wrong with me? I'm much more likable than those cold-faced types. Ali was wandering the streets, uncertain who had captured her earlier. Now, he had left the mansion. Though life outside was tough, he had to rely on himself. Nan only realized after a while that she hadn't heard Kiaoga's voice. Suddenly, Kiaoga's cries came from outside. A group of black-clad men had surrounded her. Li, you bastards! Picking on a woman. How brave! One of the men lunged at Ruoli with a blade. Years of combat training weren't for nothing. Ruoli kicked the attacker to the ground. She boldly threatened the men, protecting Kiao Jiu. I'll take your lives. Ji, sweating profusely, yelled, stop showing off. Run for your life. Ruoli urged Kiao Jiu to flee. These men aren't the same as the ones on the street. They mean business. Go. I'm so sorry, Kiao Jiu apologized as she ran. While Ruoli was analyzing the situation, another man attacked her from behind, slashing her with a poisoned blade. The attacker looked at the fallen Ruoli with satisfaction. The poison on this blade will finish her off. Ruoli, struggling with the pain, tried to get up but found herself paralyzed. She had been poisoned. Kiao Jiu, seizing the opportunity, ran to get help. Ruoli never imagined she'd sacrifice herself for a stranger in this world. The sensation of falling felt familiar. Was it her memory or the original Ruoli's, collapsing time and again, never rescued? These memories of the original owner filled Ruoli with despair. This time, however, someone was coming to save her. The prince rushed in, dispatching the attackers. He lifted the injured Ruoli. Weakly, she said, you came to save me. The prince didn't reply, carrying her quickly back to the mansion. At the mansion's pool, the prince dismissed the servants. He needed the pool to detoxify Ruoli. The poison she'd been hit with was a specialty from the 6th month of the Deep Palace. To detoxify her, the prince started removing Ruoli's clothes. Though weak, Ruoli grasped his hand. What are you doing? The prince sighed, pulling her into an embrace. Detoxifying you. The poison, falling well, causes chills and pain. Only hot medicinal liquid applied to the skin can draw it out. Otherwise, you'll die within the hour. The blade that cut you was coated with it. Ruoli was curious. How do you know all this? In my youth, I studied poisons. Royal bloodlines, it's common practice. To eliminate rivals, any method is used. In the prince's warm embrace, Ruoli drifted off to sleep. The next day, Ruoli awoke in bed. I'm not dead. The prince, seeing her awake, replied, because your fate isn't sealed. Ruoli noticed him sitting by her bedside, then remembered the pool and her changed clothes. Did you see everything? She blurted. The prince replied nonchalantly, isn't that normal between husband and wife? Unable to argue, Ruoli blushed and changed the subject. Were you here all night? The prince feigned annoyance. I was afraid you'd run again. The servants can't keep you contained. He was actually worried, but wouldn't admit it. Ruoli then asked, why did you save me? Her eyes twinkled. Don't tell me you're falling for me. The prince turned away, feigning indifference. Impossible. I need your ability to change appearances. In the Eastern Sheng Kingdom, everyone pursued status and wealth. Ruoli felt a pang of disappointment, scolding herself for thinking anyone would care about her life in this world. Her spirits plummeted. Suddenly, the prince spoke softly. You must have suffered a lot. If Kiao Jiu risked coming to the mansion for help, you must have earned it. He then left, telling Ruoli to stay put. At the door, he resumed his sickly demeanor, ordering the servants to care for her, and saying he'd return later. Ruoli was confused by his shifting behavior. Xie advised, instead of guessing, figure out how to repay the favor. Ruoli agreed. Qiao Jiu arrived with tea. Ruoli asked her to find writing materials. After last night, she knew she needed to regain her fighting prowess. She created a rigorous training plan to return her weak body to peak condition. The current exercise equipment was insufficient. She asked Qiao Jiu about the barbell and parallel bars she had requested. Qiao Jiu smiled. "They'll be ready tomorrow." Ruoli gave Qiao Jiu a thumbs up. This efficiency was impressive. Unseen, someone observed her every move. A while later, the prince arrived, finding Ruoli happily occupied. He sighed, resigned himself to her antics. "I've told everyone you have wind sickness, to avoid visitors and gossip. What are you doing now? Don't cause more trouble." Ruoli showed him her custom-designed poker cards. "Well, play next time." The prince was slightly intrigued. Ruoli seized the moment. "I need your help." The prince sighed. "What is it?" Ruoli seriously requested people with appearance problems. She wanted to hold a beauty makeover event to boost the prince's reputation and gain favor. The prince agreed. Ruoli set out, equipped with staff and resources, to organize a grand beauty makeover event. Stepping out of the carriage, Ruoli greeted the crowd. "Good afternoon, everyone. I've missed you all." Her modern slang surprised the crowd. "This princess is so strange." Qiao Jiu then announced, "The princess has mastered cosmetic techniques and wishes to share her knowledge. Starting today, anyone whose appearance has caused hardship can seek help from the princess. She will treat 100 people daily." The crowd, hopeful for a miracle, surged forward. With her makeup kit and Xiaoji's assistance, Ruoli had everything she needed. Transformations wouldn't be difficult. The first woman had a good figure, but a large birthmark marred her face. A simple task for Ruoli. She called for 10 more people. Xiaoji was exasperated. "She's trying to work me to death." Ruoli skillfully concealed the birthmark. Small eyes transformed with double eyelid tape, contouring slimming the face. Ruoli explained each step as she worked. With Ruoli and Xiaoji's efforts, the results were better than surgery. The transformed individuals marveled at their new appearances, their confidence boosted. Xiaoji called for a break. "This 100-person makeover is crazy. She didn't even consult me." Ruoli soothed Xiaoji. "I just want to help those who, like me, have suffered because of their appearance." Meanwhile, in the palace, Ruoli's sister, now a concubine, was furious. The masked man before her was the infamous assassin, Qing Jun. He was unaware of the price Ruoli had paid for her survival. "She's still alive after the strongest poison. And you dare ask for payment?" Qing Jun chuckled. "My mistake. I'll try again." "Your Majesty," someone intervened and detoxified her. "I'll go again." The concubine, still angry, decided to tease Wan Fei, who had spoken out of turn. Wan Fei slapped Qing Jun's hand. "Get out, you murderous dog." Qing Jun wasn't bothered. Such a woman wasn't worth his attention. He laughed and left the palace, heading for Ruoli. At the beauty event, a wealthy man arrived. Xiaoji was the first to sense something amiss. Ruoli also felt a murderous aura. The man removed his mask, revealing a scarred face. Xiaoji yelled, "This face is fake." Ruoli instantly went on guard. Suddenly, arrows rained down. Xiaoji yelled, "Take cover." Ruoli flipped a table for protection. Just then, a masked man dressed in white, wielding a tonfa and a katana, appeared and deflected the nameless flying dart. Soon, word reached the capital that the situation had been resolved, though the perpetrator hadn't been caught. The mysterious man and a group of white horses had vanished. In truth, this man was the prince. Ruoli exclaimed, "So handsome. My white-armored Prince Charming." With everything seemingly calm, Ruoli crawled out from under the table. The prince picked up the broken sword left on the ground. His suspicions were confirmed. It was indeed the nameless sword. Looking at the mask, Ruoli was filled with questions. "Who are the nameless? And who are you?" Ruoli then noticed her white-armored prince's bleeding fingers. She started to approach him, but the prince rode off on his white horse. Ruoli chased after him, calling, "Wait. Who are you? Why did you save me?" But she received no answer. Ruoli returned to her quarters in the prince's estate, feeling unsettled. She also scolded Xiaoji, forbidding him from leaving the estate again. Ruoli pleaded, "Your Highness, don't be so hasty. See, I'm not even injured." Knowing the dangers of the nameless, the prince firmly insisted Ruoli remain within the estate without his permission. Ruoli suddenly noticed a bandage on the prince's index finger, identical to the wound on her white-armored savior. A suspicion arose. "When did you get hurt?" she asked urgently. The prince, reverting to his aloof demeanor, replied, "What's it to you?" The tender moment was instantly shattered. Annoyed, Ruoli pushed the prince out the door. "You can leave now." She slammed the door shut. "Good night." "Bye." "Don't let me hold you up." Sitting on her bed, Ruoli suddenly felt something strange. It was hard, beneath her. Just as she was about to investigate, a pair of hands embraced her. "Greetings, my lady. I am Qing-jun of the Nameless. It's an honor." Hearing this, Ruoli, realizing it was her assassin, was terrified. She wanted to scream for help, but found herself unable to make a sound. Ruoli's inability to move or speak was due to the existence of martial arts in this world. Qing-jun had immobilized her with a pressure point technique. Ruoli panicked internally. This world treats killing like a game. And there's martial arts. How am I supposed to survive this? My little Xiaji. Xiaji, despite his fear, stood bravely beside Ruoli, drawing his unimpressive-looking knife. Qing-jun teased Ruoli, "I've been longing to see you since our encounter today. I simply couldn't resist visiting, my lady." Ruoli wanted to retort, but being silenced by the pressure point, could only blink furiously. Qing-jun, realizing this, released the hold. Ruoli, now able to move, exploded. "Untie me completely." "Silencing me, what kind of hero are you? And are you crazy?" Assaulting the prince's wife, Qing-jun remained unfazed and unimpressed by the mention of the powerless prince. He casually picked up a nearby comb and began carving. He found Ruoli far more interesting than the prince. Interesting, interesting. Interesting how? Ruoli panicked inwardly. "Don't tell me he's going to." Seeing the neatly arranged combs, Ruoli noted, "He's definitely got OCD. My lady, your frantic thoughts are amusing. I have urgent matters to attend to." Qing-jun reached into his robes, presumably for his knife, intending to kill her. Ruoli, misled by his appearance and words, thought he was about to assault her. "Wait!" she cried. Qing-jun's knife was already half drawn. Hearing Ruoli, he paused. Ruoli quickly said, "You seem different from those other incompetent fools. A professional killer, right? You don't really want to kill me, do you? Let's be honest, it's all about the thrill and the money. Name your price, my lady, you are interesting. How do you know I'm not here to ahem or kill? The price I demand, I'm afraid you can't afford." Facing death, Ruoli thought, whatever the price, I'll stall. "Just say it. How much will it take to spare me?" Qing-jun scoffed, "This dilapidated estate cannot even afford a high price. The empress in the palace has promised me invaluable protection." Ruoli instantly understood. "So you don't actually need money, do you?" Slightly surprised, Qing-jun admitted, "My lady is indeed clever." Hope ignited within Ruoli. "You saw my makeup skills today, how I can change someone's appearance. Wouldn't that qualify as invaluable protection?" Qing-jun played with a silver needle, unimpressed. "Mere child's play. I can do that too." Knowing she had piqued his interest, Ruoli pressed further. "Yours is too crude. Mine is much more practical. Anyone can use it, and your killer instinct truly impressive. Why don't you untie me, and I'll demonstrate." Qing-jun observed Ruoli, his interest waning. Ruoli tearfully pleaded, "I promise I won't move. Besides, wouldn't it be easier to just kill me now?" This flattered Qing-jun, who chuckled and untied her. Ruoli discreetly signaled Xiaji for her makeup kit. Xiaji quickly produced the necessary items. Ruoli immediately began applying the disguise, transforming herself into Qing-jun. For added effect, Ruoli even blindfolded herself. With a change of clothes, it would be hard to tell them apart. Reaching the crucial moment, Ruoli hid the powder puff behind her back. "Want to learn? Come closer, and I'll tell you the secret." Ruoli stepped forward and threw the powder into Qing-jun's eyes. This was her moment. She believed that as long as he couldn't see, she could escape. Qing-jun instinctively tried to grab Ruoli, but blinded, he missed. His attack swung wide. Ruoli seized the opportunity, and dove into the tunnel she had previously dug. When Qing-jun's vision cleared, Ruoli was gone, leaving only the gaping tunnel beneath the bed. Qing chuckled, finding Ruoli even more intriguing than other women. He didn't pursue, but left the estate with a smirk. Meanwhile, the prince sneezed, likely due to the open window. He went to close it and spotted the disguised Nameless on the roof. Seeing the Nameless attire, the prince grabbed his sword. What is he plotting? Suddenly, a thought struck him. Ruoli might be in danger. The prince rushed to Ruoli's room, calling her name. The room was in disarray. The prince's heart lurched. He frantically searched, and discovered the tunnel under the bed. When did she dig this? A noise from the tunnel put the prince on high alert. He drew his sword. Ruoli, just emerging from the tunnel, was startled by the prince's presence. Seeing Ruoli, the prince rushed to her side, checking for injuries. Are you all right? Ruoli blushed at his concern. Before she could speak, the prince gripped her hands, demanding, why did you dig a tunnel? Were you trying to escape? Why did you come back? Ruoli retorted, why are you shouting? We need to deal with the assassin. Suddenly, the prince embraced her tightly, like a lost treasure found. Forgetting his facade, he confessed, I just don't want you to get hurt anymore. Ruoli froze, overwhelmed. Having never been in love, she wasn't sure what to make of this confession. The prince had intended to reveal his love, but Ruoli, inexperienced in romance, didn't fully grasp his meaning. Embarrassed by the embrace, she pushed him away. The prince gazed at her longingly. What's wrong? Taking her silence as rejection, the prince's heartbroken expression made Ruoli's heart race. Excuse me, but your heartbeat seems a bit fast. Xiaji's sudden interruption snapped Ruoli back to reality. Blushing furiously, she told Xiaji to shut up. The prince gently stroked Ruoli's smudged cheek, a result of her escape from the Nameless. He regretted his confession. The dangers surrounding her were too great. He didn't want to involve her. Resuming his aloof persona, he decided to keep his feelings hidden. He turned and left. Ruoli was left confused. What was that about? Xiaji shrewdly observed, have you never been in love before? Mind your own business. Ruoli snapped, embarrassed by Xiaji's insight, but the prince's words and embrace lingered in her mind. Meanwhile, in the palace, Consort Wan danced seductively for the emperor. But, despite Consort Wan's efforts and the music played by the other consorts, the emperor remained unmoved. Annoyed, he snapped, enough of this vulgar display. He beckoned Consort Wan closer. She was elated, mistaking his gesture for favor, but the emperor pinched her cheek disdainfully. Why are you so different? You, he threw her aside, laughing cruelly. Stolen goods are always more tempting. The next morning, Ruoli dressed beautifully and hummed a tune as she went to see the prince. Qiao Jiyu had advised her to follow her heart. Since she couldn't deny her feelings for the prince, she decided to accept his affections. So, Ruoli eagerly sought him out. Xiaji simply thought, love makes women lose all sense of propriety. Ruoli lamented her fate, contemplating love only after marriage. She hesitated outside the prince's door. Just as she was about to knock, she heard the sound of something breaking inside. Worried, Ruoli hesitated for a moment before resolutely pushing open the door, ready to check on him. She stepped inside. My lord, are you all right? The prince was startled, clearly not expecting Ruoli's arrival. Anyone who entered this room now was meant to be silenced. At this moment, numerous influential figures were gathered in his room, discussing a momentous plan to overthrow the dynasty. To prevent Ruoli from being harmed, the prince, ignoring the others' glares, snapped, You flighty woman. What are you doing here? It was obvious, things weren't looking good. The men in the room had murderous intent towards Ruoli. This matter was of grave importance. If the princess consort were to hear, the prince hurried Ruoli out, insisting to the others that she was mad and wouldn't understand their discussion even if she heard it. Hey, why are you only sending me away? Who are they? Ruoli asked. Pushing her out the door, the prince warned her to leave immediately. The situation was dire. Ruoli understood. They were plotting something secretive and feared she'd be silenced for overhearing. His calling her mad was actually a way to protect her. Ruoli was right. The prince truly wanted to protect her from these dangerous affairs, hence his pretense of her madness. The prince had fallen for Ruoli. But he feared the potential failure of their plot, which would certainly result in his death. Such emotional turmoil would only bring her sorrow. He chose to bear the burden alone. Inside the room, the discussion continued. The Dongsheng kingdom, under the emperor's rule, was notorious for its harsh decrees. A date for the uprising was set. The date was set for the emperor's wedding day. Ruoli leaned against the city wall, lost in thought. Xiaji, unable to watch any longer, interjected, "Why haven't you gone inside? It's almost dark, Ruoli." Ruoli was still struggling to understand the prince's intentions. One moment he confesses, the next he calls me crazy. He avoids me, yet he seems to be involved in something dangerous. Xiaji sternly warned Ruoli, "Don't forget how dangerous this world is. Even when in love, you need to protect yourself." Determined to stop overthinking, Ruoli decided to talk to the prince, to have a mature conversation, and clear things up. Having made up her mind, she went to find him. A woman's intuition alerted her to impending danger, but it was too late. A dark figure ambushed and knocked her unconscious from behind. When Ruoli awoke, she found herself in an unfamiliar bed. Sitting up and touching her still aching head, she wondered, "Have I transmigrated again?" Just then, someone pushed open the door and entered. To Ruoli's shock, it was the emperor, his eyes fixed on Ruoli with undisguised lust. "Welcome, sister-in-law. Make yourself comfortable." The emperor struck Ruoli as dangerous. Frightened and furious, she demanded, "Why have you brought me here?" The emperor of Dongsheng was truly audacious, harboring lewd intentions towards his own sister-in-law, and daring to act on them. Ruoli struggled to escape. "Is there some misunderstanding, Your Majesty? Please listen to me. I haven't done anything Consort Wan accused me of." Xiaji urgently warned Ruoli not to provoke this volatile emperor, lest she face dire consequences. Ruoli obediently knelt, hoping to appease him. But she was dealing with an emperor without scruples. He pulled her up and declared his intention to make her his imperial concubine. Even a drama wouldn't dare portray such a scene. Xiaji exclaimed in shock. Ruoli recoiled, but the emperor, unyielding, pointed at her. "I mean what I say." Hiding in the shadows, the scheming consort Wan was seething with rage. "Why does she, this little vixen, deserve the emperor's favor when I, after all my efforts, cannot?" But Ruoli was not interested. The emperor's attitude disgusted her. "I am your sister-in-law. This is inappropriate. Besides, I am neither beautiful nor talented. Your Majesty, please spare me." The emperor forcibly pulled Ruoli closer. His authority was absolute. As emperor, any woman he desired was his to take. The prince was still discussing the rebellion. One wrong move could cost them their lives. Every detail had to be meticulously planned. At that moment, the guard assigned to protect Ruoli arrived to report. "Princess Consort has been taken to the palace. I failed to protect her. I await your punishment, my lord." Learning of Ruoli's capture, the prince was deeply worried, knowing the emperor's true nature, but they were on the verge of rebellion. Venturing into the palace now was a dangerous distraction. His advisors urged him not to intervene. The ministers suspected the princess consort's capture was a ploy to restrain the prince. They vehemently opposed a rescue attempt. Understanding the implications, the prince didn't punish the guard, but took responsibility for the situation. His advisors urgently pleaded with him to abandon Ruoli and prioritize their grand plan. They feared the emperor's imminent action, suspecting he had caught wind of their plot. "Indecision will be our downfall tonight." They were using their lives to pressure the prince to abandon Ruoli. The argument intensified. One even suggested the prince immediately divorce Ruoli to sever ties. "Then how the emperor deals with her will be no concern of yours, my lord." The prince calmly responded, "What did you say?" "That woman." Seeing the prince's reaction and realizing Ruoli's importance to him, the advisors retreated. The prince paused in contemplation. The long-planned rebellion was crucial, but so was Ruoli. He refused to jeopardize everyone's lives for his own sake. He made his decision. He would rescue the princess consort. If, at the appointed time, he hadn't appeared at the palace gates, they were to hold back. But if they saw him at the gates, they were to launch the attack immediately. Ignoring their pleas, he flew out. Showing a sliver of decency, the emperor had Ruoli's hands and feet bound and placed her in a specially prepared room. Ruoli inwardly cursed. In this era, the emperor's word was law. How infuriating. Refusing to be a damsel in distress, Ruoli gnawed at the ropes binding her wrists with all her might. After a tremendous struggle, she finally broke free. This is ancient times, she thought. In the modern era, this would be bigamy, kidnapping, a whole list of offenses. Besides, did he ask for my consent? Did he ask the prince? This lunatic emperor. Enraged, Ruoli began working on the ropes binding her ankles. Suddenly, Zyaga's voice appeared. What if he did ask? If the prince abandoned you for his grand scheme, it'd be understandable. Before Ruoli could dwell on her sadness, the door burst open. It was the lascivious emperor, eager to consummate their union. Xiaji quickly disappeared. Ruoli, equally horrified, frantically worked at the ropes. Before she could finish, the emperor grabbed her waistband. His predatory gaze sent shivers down Ruoli's spine. They tugged at the waistband, which was already tearing. If you don't let go, I will. The emperor, confused, didn't understand. Ruoli abruptly released her grip. They had been maintaining a precarious balance. With Ruoli's release, the balance shifted, the force rebounding, and nearly sending the emperor tumbling. He was barely caught by his attendants. Someone secure her. The Empress of Dongsheng arrived, her dignified appearance masking a cruel and ruthless nature. The Empress' appearance was orchestrated by Consort Wan, who, unwilling to let the Emperor favor Ruoli and thus lose her own position, had summoned the Empress. Feigning concern, she asked the Emperor what was happening. The Emperor, ignoring her, glared at Ruoli on the bed. Consort Wan approached triumphantly. Your Majesty, this is my elder sister, Wan Ruoli. Sister, you haven't greeted Her Majesty. Ruoli, now free from her ankle restraints and fuming, simply stared at their performance. Wan Fei knelt dramatically. Your Majesty, my sister has always been lacking in manners. Even now, in your presence, she remains disrespectful. You are the ruler of the inner palace. The mother of all. Please advise her on proper conduct. His Majesty intends to elevate the prince's consort to the position of imperial concubine. The Emperor, unable to bear the charade any longer, snapped at the conniving Wan Fei. Silence. The Empress helped Wan Fei up, advising the Emperor against rash actions. Why not let me take both sisters to Kuning Palace to rest and talk? Perhaps by tomorrow, they will have a change of heart. The inner palace politics were complex. Gaining Ruoli's willing cooperation would be preferable. The Emperor, after a moment of consideration, agreed and turned to leave. Observing the Emperor's deference to the Empress, Ruoli realized she was a force to be reckoned with. She then followed the Empress to Kuning Palace. The Empress maintained a pleasant facade, masking her malicious intent. Now that everyone is here, she said, bring it in. Ruoli was curious. What could it be? Soon, palace maids brought in what the Empress had prepared. The Empress picked up the presented item, a sharp hairpin. Without hesitation, she lunged at Ruoli, drawing blood, which dripped onto Ruoli's hand. Her true colors revealed, the Empress berated Ruoli, you shameless hussy. How dare you try to seduce the Emperor? The Empress, however, hadn't deeply wounded Ruoli, but merely scratched her face. Ruoli touched her cheek. How dare you scratch my face? You're going down. As she prepared to retaliate, a loud crash interrupted. Someone had kicked through the Kuning Palace window. The palace maid screamed, assassin. The intruder was the prince, in his alternate identity as the white-armored prince, who had saved Ruoli multiple times. He swept Ruoli into his arms and vanished from Kuning Palace with lightning speed. Carried away from the palace, Ruoli exclaimed in astonishment, you're the white-armored prince. Ruoli was truly fortunate. Whenever danger arose, he always appeared to save her. Having openly defied the Empress, their escape would not be easy. Guards surrounded them, one even managing to pierce the prince's mask. Ruoli felt a surge of worry. Be careful. The prince, holding her tightly, effortlessly fought them off, finding a secluded spot to hide Ruoli. Stay here. Don't move. I'll deal with them and come back for you. He turned and flew away. Ruoli still didn't know his name, despite calling out to him several times. She shouted after him, don't just fly off like that every time. Tell me your name. Xiaji excitedly pulled at Ruoli's face, causing her wounds to sting. Xiaji immediately took out a brush to treat Ruoli's wounds, comforting her, normal wounds heal quickly. They won't scar. Xiaji was startled by the appearance of the sealed Emperor and Empress, but continued to comfort Ruoli, it's all right now, don't be afraid. Ruoli, touched, gently scratched Xiaji's nose. You're injured yourself, yet you're still comforting me. Thank you. Suddenly, a sound from nearby caught Ruoli's attention. Xiaji was overjoyed, thinking their white-armored prince had returned. In her mind, he was a hero, a symbol of safety. Ruoli cautiously parted the grass to see what it was. It turned out, they were at the cold palace, the place everyone in the palace avoided. Driven by curiosity, Ruoli was about to enter when she heard someone behind her call out, "Mother." It startled both Xiaji and Ruoli. The already eerie atmosphere of the cold palace made the sudden voice even more unsettling. However, seeing the tearful, cute little boy who called out "Mother," her fear vanished, replaced by bewilderment. Ruoli repeatedly denied, "I'm not your mother. Why are you here alone? Where are your parents?" The little boy cried inconsolably, "Mother, I only have you. Don't you want me anymore?" Ruoli was flustered. Don't cry, don't cry. I'm really not your mother." Ruoli relented. She had to calm the boy down first, lest they attract unwanted attention. She thought, this child, dressed in rags and seemingly unattended, had managed to survive in the cold palace. He must be exceptionally resilient. The boy noticed Ruoli's injuries and asked with concern, "Mother, how did your face get hurt? Does it hurt?" "Mother, you need to bandage your wounds." Ruoli sighed. "You're so pitiful yourself, yet you're worried about me. All right, I'll be your mother for now and take care of you." As soon as she finished speaking, a group of menacing men in black appeared. Ruoli shielded the boy and retreated. She asked Xiaji to look after the child while she dealt with them. "Stay back." She charged at the men in black, releasing the pent-up frustration of the past few days. However, despite her improved strength, her body was still weak and couldn't withstand the continuous attacks. She was clearly struggling. Just as she was about to collapse, her white-armored prince appeared again, dispatching the remaining attackers with a single stroke. Relieved, the boy ran to Ruoli. "Mother, are you all right?" The prince was stunned. "What's going on? I was just gone for a bit, and now you have a child." "Don't ask. Let's just say I just picked him up. I don't even know his name." She gently stroked the boy's head. "What's your name?" The boy obediently replied, "Mother, I don't have a name." Ruoli picked up the boy. Seeing him alone in the desolate cold palace, she felt pity and decided to adopt him. The prince cautioned her, "Think this through. This child's origins are unknown. Are you sure about taking him with you?" Ruoli was resolute. "I want to take him home. We were strangers, yet you saved me several times. He's just a child, how can I abandon him?" Back at his mansion, the prince was troubled. That woman is reckless. Bringing someone of unknown origin back to the mansion. Even if it's a child, she shouldn't be so careless. It's worrisome. To make matters worse, Shinfu reported that because the prince had rescued Ruoli, they missed a crucial opportunity, and many were dissatisfied. The prince roared, "I made the arrangements. Who dares to be dissatisfied?" Ruoli returned to the mansion with the boy, fuming. The emperor and empress of this era are truly despicable. Her agitation caused her wounds to bleed again. The boy gently touched her face. "Mother, your face is bleeding. Don't smile." Ruoli quickly wiped the blood away. "Don't worry, Mother's fine." She playfully pinched the boy's cheek. "From now on, I'm your mother. I'll protect you." Qiao Jiyu was at the door, asking if Ruoli was all right. She had been worried sick when Ruoli disappeared. Ruoli invited Qiao Jiyu in. She considered Qiao Jiyu a friend, not a servant. The boy nervously clutched Ruoli's clothes. "Mother, I'm scared." Ruoli assumed he was shy and didn't think much of it. She opened the door. As Qiao Jiyu began to speak, the boy suddenly shouted, "Mother, run." He had clearly suffered trauma, and had a conditioned response. He quickly hid under the blankets, trembling. "Momo's coming. Hide." Seeing the boy's unusual behavior, Ruoli comforted him. "It's okay. Momo is Mother's friend. He's a good person." Judging by the boy's fear, he must have suffered greatly in the palace. The women of the harem were truly hateful. The boy looked up with teary eyes. "Really? Don't let those bad people trick you, Mother." Ruoli hugged the boy, empathizing deeply. Having grown up without a mother, she knew the hardships. "Don't be afraid. From now on, I'm your mother." The boy stopped crying, snuggling into Ruoli's embrace. "Mother, you have me now. You're not alone anymore." Qiao Jiyu approached, presenting medicine the prince had specifically prepared for Ruoli. Ruoli was curious. How did he know I was injured? Qiao Jiyu stammered, unsure how to answer. Distracted, Ruoli didn't press further, instead asking if the boy was injured. The boy obediently pulled up his sleeve, revealing a shocking number of scars for someone so young. Tears streamed down Ruoli's face as she saw his scars. Who could be so cruel to a child? It doesn't hurt. They are all healed. Don't cry, mother. Your face hurts more. Despite his suffering, he was incredibly considerate, making Ruoli's heart ache. Ruoli wiped away her tears, determined to be a good mother. She applied ointment to the boy's scars and cleaned him up. The boy's playful nature returned, revealing the child he should be. Seeing the boy happy, Ruoli felt relieved. Much better. The boy hugged Ruoli, feeling warmth in his heart. I have a mother now. It feels so good. He secretly vowed to protect her. Qiao Jiu observed the boy, a thought crossing her mind. He looks just like the prince when he was young. Ruoli decided to take the boy to meet the prince. Since they were at the mansion, it was proper to introduce him. Upon seeing the prince, the boy called out, "Father." Ruoli was stunned. Don't you remember? This is your father. The boy smiled brightly. Mother's husband is naturally my father. The clever boy had noticed the resemblance between the prince and the man who rescued them. Since this was his mother's husband and the master of the mansion, he wanted to win his favor for his mother's happiness. He cheerfully called out father and rushed towards the prince, only to be stopped by the prince, who looked at Ruoli suspiciously. This child's origins are unknown. You brought him back just like that. Ruoli suggested the prince give the boy a name, so he would no longer be of unknown origin. The prince, wanting to conceal his identity as the white-armored prince, pretended not to know the boy lacked a name. He studied the boy's features, and an idea struck him. Let's call him Xiao Xiao. The boy was overjoyed. Father likes mother, right? He's not angry that mother brought back a stranger, and even gave Xiao Xiao a name. Thank you, father. The prince stood up, feigning indifference. Don't call me father. Xiao Xiao cheerfully replied, okay, father. The prince secretly enjoyed being called father and let it go. Ruoli watched, the two of them, amused. It seemed the prince had accepted Xiao Xiao, which pleased her. Suddenly, a group of maids approached. The prince immediately feigned illness. The maids rushed to his side. In front of the maids, the prince announced Xiao Xiao's status. The princess consort will be responsible for this child. Any issues concerning him will be her responsibility. If anything happens to this child, you will be held accountable. He then spoke to Xiao Xiao privately. As for your education, I will spare you for now, considering your young age and hardships. Just stay at the mansion and be a good companion to your mother. Ruoli watched from afar, curious about their private conversation. Xiao Xiao would be the catalyst for the prince and Ruoli's growing affection. He earnestly pleaded, can Xiao Xiao sleep with mother and father tonight? It's always been my dream. Ruoli blushed, flustered by Xiao Xiao's request. She and the prince had never slept together, their marriage only in name. She shyly glanced at the prince, apologizing. Don't mind him, your highness. The prince, inwardly delighted, maintained a calm facade. All right, Xiao Xiao's request isn't unreasonable. Yay! I can sleep with father and mother. Xiao Xiao happily hugged the prince. Ruoli watched their interaction, amused. People in this era are surprisingly receptive to becoming fathers. The prince suddenly asked seriously, how is your wound? With Shiji's advanced technology, Ruoli was confident. It's fine. It'll be healed in a couple of days. Night fell. Ruoli was putting Xiao Xiao to bed, filled with maternal warmth. Though she grew up without parents, she was optimistic and resilient. Now, she was pouring that missing parental love onto Xiao Xiao. But Xiao Xiao, wise beyond his years, hadn't forgotten his role as a catalyst. Mother, where's father? Isn't he sleeping with us? Ruoli blushed, slightly embarrassed. Your father's probably busy. You go to sleep first. Don't wait for him. Unbeknownst to her, the prince was already at the door. Xiao Xiao was overjoyed, cheerfully greeting the prince. Father, you're here to sleep with mother and me. Ruoli was taken aback. She hadn't expected the prince to actually come. She thought he was just joking with Xiao Xiao. The prince responded to Xiao Xiao seriously. He took out a box of ointment. This promotes wound healing and prevents scarring. Try it, Ruoli. Shiji immediately appeared, analyzing the ointment's ingredients. These are all very precious medicinal ingredients. Let Ruoli use them without worry. They are good for her wounds. Xiao Xiao. Xiao Xiao has already become a master matchmaker. Daddy, mommy is hurt. Shouldn't you help her apply the medicine? The prince was inwardly delighted. This son is good. I must give him a chicken leg later. I thought I could apply it myself. No need, I can do it myself. The prince didn't want to disappoint Xiao Xiao's kindness. Holding the medicine, he said, let me. He gently dabbed a bit of the ointment on Ruoli's face. The prince's movements were very gentle. Suddenly, the cool sensation of the ointment interrupted Ruoli's love-struck gaze. The prince immediately loosened his hand and softly asked, did I hurt you? Ruoli quickly said no. Her heart was beating uncontrollably fast. Oh my God, such a gentle prince. Who can resist this? Xiao Xiao quickly chimed in, Daddy, blow on it. Mommy must be in pain. You have to blow on it for her. The prince couldn't help but complain inwardly, am I really following a child's instructions? Shouldn't I rebel? But his body acted honestly. He leaned close to Ruoli's face and gently blew on her wound. The silence allowed them to hear each other's heartbeats. Xiao Xiao cheered happily, yay. Daddy blew on it. Mommy's pain has flown away. Ruoli grumbled inwardly, this child not becoming a cupid is such a waste. Ruoli quickly coaxed Xiao Xiao to sleep. Xiao Xiao obediently closed his eyes. However, this little schemer wanted to sleep with Daddy and Mommy together. But he strategically positioned himself on the very edge of the bed. Ruoli was surprised and asked, Xiao Xiao, why are you sleeping on the inside? Don't you want to sleep between Daddy and Mommy? Xiao Xiao pretended to be asleep and didn't respond. The prince understood Xiao Xiao's intentions and said softly, forget it, let him be. Ruoli inwardly complained, this little guy is too clever. He understands everything. But what could she do? Sleep like this, of course. Having promised Xiao Xiao, Ruoli faced Xiao Xiao the entire time. Her shoulder became numb. She really wanted to change positions. Finally, she turned over and discovered the prince was asleep. This was her first time sharing a bed with a man, especially such a handsome and powerful prince. It made her heart race and she couldn't take her eyes off him. The prince suddenly opened his eyes and leaned closer. Why aren't you sleeping yet? Ruoli blushed furiously and lied, saying she couldn't sleep in unfamiliar beds. Unexpectedly, the prince reached out and wrapped his arm around her waist. Sleep peacefully. Don't move. I'll hold you. Ruoli hadn't expected this move from the prince. The prince also seemed captivated by this moment. Ruoli never thought that this night would be the most peaceful sleep she'd had since arriving in this world. By the time she woke up and greeted Xiao Xiao, it was already late morning. Xiao Xiao asked with concern, Mommy, are you tired from last night? Ruoli quickly changed the subject, telling Xiao Xiao to play in the courtyard for a while. After freshening up, she would take him out to buy some tan hulu. Afterwards, while applying makeup to Ruoli, Xiaji noticed that her wound, despite the ointment, was getting worse. Ruoli herself didn't feel anything, thinking that Xiaji, being a professional, was overthinking it and that it was more serious than it seemed. She still didn't pay much attention to it. Afterwards, wearing a veil, she took Xiao Xiao to the market to buy tan hulu, but she didn't know that someone was secretly watching her every move. Those two were Wan Fei and the Empress spies. Knowing that Ruoli had to wear a veil when going out, they figured the poison on the blade was taking effect. In fact, the Empress had coated Ruoli's blade with a colorless, odorless, and sensationless poison that day. It slowly corroded the skin without the victim's knowledge. No matter how much makeup was applied later, it couldn't be concealed. They thought that, by ruining Ruoli's face, the emperor would be disgusted and give up the idea of taking Ruoli as a concubine. They also prepared a big surprise, using this opportunity to have the emperor punish her, ensuring Ruoli would never rise again. Oblivious to the impending doom, Ruoli bought tan hulu and teased Xiao Xiao. Mommy, tan hulu. Xiao Xiao wants tan hulu. Xiaji couldn't bear it any longer. Your face is getting worse, yet you still have the mood to play with a child. Ruoli simply thought it was a normal wound and trusted Xiaji's skills completely. She didn't overthink it. For her, who was once a young lady, children were so cute. Not teasing them would be a waste. Xiaji was speechless. Fine, as long as you're happy. Ruoli was indeed very happy, so much so that she didn't notice her foot slipping. Xiaji hurriedly yelled, be careful, but it was too late. Just as Ruoli was about to fall, she unexpectedly bumped into the passing prince. The prince steadied Ruoli. Awkwardly, the tan hulu in her hand smeared across the prince's face. Seeing the prince's stunned expression, Ruoli burst into laughter. You look so cute like this, The prince scraped the tan hulu off his face and gave it to Xiao Xiao. Xiao Xiao happily reached out to take it. Daddy is so good. Ruoli immediately felt jealous. Hey, Xiao Xiao, this tan hulu was bought by me for you. Why are you being biased and only saying daddy is good? Xiao Xiao munched on the tan hulu. But mommy also uses daddy's money. His words made sense, leaving Ruoli speechless. It stung a little. As expected, only financial independence can bring a woman true dignity. The current scene was so joyful and harmonious that the prince's heart was touched. He sat quietly, accompanying the mother and son. Seeing how cute Xiao Xiao was, Ruoli suddenly wanted to put makeup on him. She changed Xiao Xiao's clothes and applied some makeup. Seeing the finished product, anyone who didn't know would think Xiao Xiao was a girl. Ruoli praised him, so cute. The prince, seeing this, was speechless. This is just ridiculous. Ruoli disagreed. She thought Xiao Xiao would be very cute as a girl. But Xiao Xiao declared that he didn't want to be a girl. He declared very seriously, Mommy, Xiao Xiao wants to be a man. To protect Mommy. Ruoli was deeply moved and hugged Xiao Xiao. She didn't expect him to be such a filial child. Xiao Xiao immediately asked, Mommy, is your face healed yet? Ruoli removed her veil to show them her face. This was a big mistake. Seeing her face shocked both the prince and Xiao Xiao. Not only had it not healed, but it had gotten worse. Ruoli still didn't realize anything was wrong. She thought it was because she had been out in the sun these past few days, which was why it hadn't healed. The prince became anxious again, and told Ruoli to stay in the residence, and not go anywhere. Xiao Xiao quickly echoed, Daddy is right. Mommy doesn't need to take Xiao Xiao shopping anymore. Rest well, Ruoli sighed. Although she didn't want to be cooped up in her room every day, she didn't want them to worry, so she agreed to stay and rest. However, Ruoli suddenly took out all her makeup. Since I can't go out, it'll be boring. How about Mommy continues to put makeup on Xiao Xiao? Xiao Xiao acted like he was making a great sacrifice. If Mommy is happy then okay. The prince also looked resigned. As long as you're happy. Suddenly, a panicked guard rushed in to report the arrival of someone from the palace. On the day Ruoli escaped the palace, the Empress and Wan Fei hatched a plot. First, to give the Emperor an explanation, and second, to deal with Ruoli. When the Emperor confidently came to ask the Empress for results, the Empress, with superb acting, feigned a relaxed and comfortable demeanor, replying, Wan Fei's matter has been taken care of. Just a few finishing touches remain. This further solidified her image as a virtuous and benevolent empress. She then subtly signaled to Wan Fei. Upon receiving the signal, Wan Fei, another master of pretense, acted as if she had no selfish motives, and was only considering the emperor's best interests. She said to the emperor, Your Majesty, what worries the empress is that Wan Ruoli is now the Zun Wang Fei. If your Majesty simply takes her as a concubine, I'm afraid the people will criticize. The emperor slammed the table in anger. She has always defied me. This world is mine. Who dares to gossip? The empress, seeing that her plan was working, quickly stepped forward to soothe the emperor and prevent him from getting too angry. She immediately presented her strategy to silence the gossiping mouths. The emperor's interest was piqued, and his anger dissipated. Tell me, Empress. The empress immediately whispered the poisonous plan into the emperor's ear. This would not only please the emperor, but also eliminate Ruoli. The empress was inwardly ecstatic. Wan Fei, standing beside them, was furious. She had been busy working on this, and the credit was all taken by that scheming empress. Damnable. After hearing the empress plan, the emperor revealed a sinister smile. He was very satisfied with her scheme. He ordered her to proceed. As for his interfering son, Zun Wanya, the empress should find an excuse to get rid of him. This tyrannical emperor had reached the peak of his cruelty. If not now, when would they rebel? Therefore, when the guard reported the arrival of someone from the palace, it was for this very plan. The visitors were by Li Hua and Wan Fei. The prince knew that visitors from the palace never brought good news. With a cold expression, he asked, What brings Wan Fei Nyang here? Wan Fei put on an innocent act. Naturally, it's a joyous occasion. She had been in the residence for several months, but there was still no news of pregnancy. She suddenly clapped her hands. Come in. A beautiful woman entered, appearing harmless, but actually quite cunning. She was the Minister of Right's daughter, Shufang. The emperor, under the guise of caring for the prince and wanting the royal family to expand, specifically sent Shufang to be the prince's concubine. In reality, he wanted to disrupt the relationship between the prince and Ruoli and get rid of Ruoli. Ruoli was furious. She and the prince were having such a good time, and now this homewrecker appeared. How could this be? The prince was even angrier than Ruoli. From the moment he realized his feelings for Ruoli, he refused directly. No need. I don't need her. Go back and tell the emperor, my Wang Fei is enough. Wan Fei immediately used the emperor to threaten the prince. Since His Majesty has bestowed this reward, you should accept it. Do you understand the consequences of defying the emperor? Wan Fei was acting like a complete lackey. Before the prince could speak, Ruoli stepped forward. Wang Ye, I agree to this arrangement. The prince panicked and pulled Ruoli aside. What are you doing? Ruoli whispered back, if we don't agree, do you want to defy the emperor? In the current situation, the prince certainly couldn't defy the emperor, but he also didn't want Ruoli to suffer this humiliation. Ruoli looked at the prince's serious expression. So, you care about my feelings? The prince's expression softened. You are, after all, my officially wedded wife. Wan Fei grew impatient and taunted, what? Do you need to discuss accepting the emperor's grace? Seeing her smugness, Ruoli decided to teach her a lesson. Wan Fei Nyang, I believe children are a matter of fate, not human intervention. Just because I haven't conceived, the emperor and empress are forcing someone into the residence. Wan Fei Nyang has been in the palace for 2 years. The harem has countless concubines, yet, Ruoli's retort made the prince inwardly cheer. Well done. He even gave her a thumbs up. Wan Fei was enraged. Insolent. How dare you disrespect this palace? Ruoli calmly replied, I'm just stating facts. How is this disrespect? Wan Fei didn't expect to lose in a verbal spar. She stamped her foot in anger. Seeing this, Shufang immediately stepped forward. She knelt down and pleaded, Wang Ye, Wang Fei, please forgive me. This matter arose because of me. I deserve to be punished. But in reality, this was a tactic to gain sympathy. The prince tried to persuade her. You are the Minister of Right's daughter. Wouldn't it be better to marry into a good family? Why do this to yourself? But Shufang was persistent. Even shedding tears. With a sincere look, Shufang said, I know I can't compare to Wang Fei in Wang Ye's eyes. I have no intention of competing with her. I am now a member of the residence. I hope Wang Ye and Wang Fei will consider my reputation, and not let my parents be ridiculed. The prince remained unmoved. But Ruoli worried that defying the emperor would endanger the entire residence. Since Wan Fei had been taught a lesson this time, and wouldn't easily force anyone into the residence again, she persuaded the prince to agree for now and then think of a solution later. Since his wife had spoken, the prince naturally listened. He immediately agreed, thank you for His Majesty's kindness. As Wan Fei left, she was filled with resentment. I truly underestimated that ugly sister. To think Huang Shang could make the prince so infatuated. But as long as Shufang succeeds, I doubt you'll last even a dozen nights. At night, Shufang dressed herself provocatively, constantly asking her maid, why isn't the prince here yet? Today's my first night in the prince's manor. Just then, the door opened. Shufang immediately called out coquettishly, my prince. Prince Liuyang stood at the door, angrily ordering, put your clothes on. Shufang pretended to be shy and struggled with her clothes. My prince, isn't Fang here for a reason tonight? The prince coldly entered the room, picked up a blanket. I'm not interested in you. Tonight, you sleep on the bed. You'll sleep on the floor. If it weren't for his current inability to resist the imperial order, he wouldn't even want to enter this room. Shufang feigned innocence. My prince, do you truly dislike Fang this much? But the prince ignored her and sat down on the floor. Seeing the prince's indifference, Shufang played the sympathy card to gain his favor and trust. My prince, you don't know, but Fang has admired you since childhood. I remember when you would practice swordsmanship alone under the magnolia tree, and, while others were playing, you would quietly study. Later, during the Bien Kui rebellion, you led the troops to war. I still remember your heroic appearance. Bien Kui, the war ended, you returned triumphantly, but unfortunately, suffered injuries. Not only did you lose the chance for the throne, but you also handed over your military power to the new emperor. Xu Fangyi's acting was truly impressive, even moving herself to tears. She repeatedly declared her sincerity, kneeling before the prince, begging for affection. Fangyi knows your inner struggles. You don't have to pretend in front of me. Just talk. Don't touch me. The prince snapped. Xu Fangyi immediately withdrew her seductive act. Knowing the prince suspected her identity and Ruoli's place in his heart, she expressed contentment just being by his side. She pretended to be deeply in love, wanting nothing but for the prince not to send her away. The prince reiterated, I already have Wang Fei, so I cannot give you what you want. But as long as you behave, I won't dismiss you. Hearing this, Xu Fangyi happily agreed, secretly celebrating her first victory. Meanwhile, Ruoli was still awake, her mind racing with anxieties. Xie Ji yawned. What do you think they are doing tonight? Half asleep, Xie Ji mumbled, who cares? I just want to sleep. Ruoli, restless, wouldn't let her sleep. You can't sleep. You have to talk to me. Xie Ji, bluntly honest, said, seeing how anxious you are, you must be jealous. Ruoli blushed. I'm not jealous. I'm just worried Xu Fangyi will trick the prince, and he'll be implicated by the emperor and empress. This sobered her up. She recognized Xu Fangyi was far more cunning than Wang Fei. Xie Ji also became alert, reminding Ruoli to be cautious. Early the next morning, Xu Fangyi, the new consort, arrived at Ruoli's door, feigning respect, to greet her and help her dress. Of course, this was a pretense for her scheme. The maid tried to stop her. This is our job. It's unnecessary for the consort. But Xu Fangyi insisted, and the maid couldn't refuse. Ruoli and Xie Ji, having stayed up late, were woken by the commotion. Ruoli was annoyed. Who is it? So early. Let people sleep. Xu Fangyi was already at the bedroom door, repeatedly calling out sister apologetically, then pushed the door open to help her dress. Ruoli, sarcastically, said, such an early greeting. How diligent. Xie Ji, seeing Ruoli's expression, thought, uh-oh. It was only Xu Fangyi's first day, and she was already starting trouble. Xu Fangyi maintained her innocent facade, respectfully greeting Ruoli. She insisted on helping Ruoli wash and dress. Her words were sweet, but her intentions were malicious. Ruoli gave a fake sweet smile. No need. It's just a small matter. Xu Fangyi noticed the comb on Ruoli's dressing table. How pretty. Did the prince give it to you? She picked it up without permission. This was my mother's last gift to me. Xu Fangyi feigned shock and dropped it. The comb shattered into 2 pieces. Then, she pretended to be distraught, kneeling and apologizing profusely. Please punish me. I'm so clumsy. I broke your comb. It was your mother's keepsake. Ruoli, knowing it was deliberate, suppressed her anger. Leave? I'll fix it myself. She carefully picked up the broken pieces, heartbroken. Xie Ji cursed under her breath, she did it on purpose. What a two-faced bitch. Xu Fangyi returned to her room, and slapped herself hard, drawing blood. Her maid was shocked. Miss, what are you doing? Xu Fangyi, with a sinister smile, told her maid to inform the prince. The maid instantly understood. Touching her swollen cheek, she smiled wickedly. A big gift for you, sister. Xu Fangyi's maid rushed to the prince, crying, my prince. My lady is in tears. The prince stopped writing. What happened? Like mistress, like maid. My lady accidentally broke Wang Fei's comb. Wang Fei, without a word, slapped her hard. My lady is now crying in her room. Soon, the prince brought Xu Fangyi to Ruoli. The prince gently asked, Wang Fei, did you slap her because of a comb? Xu Fangyi clung to the prince's arm, pretending to be understanding. My prince, don't be angry with sister. It's just a small matter. Seeing this, Ruoli understood. So she orchestrated this herself. She wants to play the victim. Ruoli put on a pitiful expression, holding up the broken comb. My prince, is my mother's keepsake so insignificant? The prince, for the first time, saw Ruoli's vulnerability and felt a pang of sympathy. Seeing the prince sway towards Ruoli, Xu Fangyi started to cry dramatically. My prince, it wasn't sister who hit me. I bumped into her accidentally. I broke her comb. She had the right to punish me. She wanted to remind the prince that Ruoli had resorted to violence. Unexpectedly, the prince turned to her. Indeed, you were disrespectful to Wang Fei. She was right to discipline you. Since you've admitted your fault, you are confined for 3 days as an apology to Wang Fei. Xu Fangyi was stunned. How could this be? Why am I punished, not her? She felt like her plan backfired. Ruoli was also surprised. Why didn't he blame me for hitting her? She felt a sense of being favored. This favoritism was too obvious. The prince blushed, coughing to ease the tension. He gave Ruoli a light, non-punitive punishment as a formality. Ruoli now understood. The prince hadn't believed Xu Fangyi's lies, and bringing Xu Fangyi here was a way to protect her. Ruoli, genuinely happy, nodded, accepting the punishment. Xu Fangyi watched them resentfully and returned to confinement. 3 days later, the weather was beautiful. Ruoli was admiring the blooming lotus flowers when Xu Fangyi saw her. Seeing Ruoli happy irritated her. This time, I'll teach you a lesson. Then, she put on her innocent act, greeting Ruoli. Ruoli, wary of such a good actress, said, "You're out so soon." Xu Fangyi knew Ruoli wore a veil to hide her injury, but pretended ignorance. Sister, why do you always wear a veil? Isn't it hot? Ruoli, bluntly, replied, none of your business. Xu Fangyi maintained her gentle demeanor, approaching Ruoli, her words soft, but her actions malicious. She ripped off Ruoli's veil, wanting everyone to see her ugly face, to strike a blow at Ruoli's confidence. She feigned shock. Oh my. Sister, your face so. She pretended to be concerned. Ruoli wasn't having it. She slapped Xu Fangyi hard, leaving a clear handprint. You said I hit you last time. This time, I really did. Xu Fangyi feigned innocence. That was my maid talking nonsense. It was a misunderstanding. Suddenly, seeing maids approaching, she hatched a new plan. She stepped back and screamed, I'm sorry. No. Then she jumped into the lotus pond, making it look like Ruoli pushed her. Ruoli, completely stunned, was speechless. This woman was truly vicious, every move calculated. Splashing in the pond, Xu Fangyi continued to play the victim. Help. Sister, I'm sorry. I can't swim. Her maid also cried for help. Soon, the incident attracted a crowd, including the prince. Xu Fangyi, using her current state, tried to gain the prince's sympathy. Her maid knelt, pleading with the prince. I saw Wang Fei slap my lady and push her into the water. Although my lady isn't royalty, she's the daughter of a minister and the empress cousin. This was a blatant threat. Ruoli calmly replied, I am the Princess Wang Fei. Can't I discipline someone who disrespects me? The prince shouted, impudent. Wang Fei is kind and forgiving. You are confined to your quarters for disrespect. You shall reflect on your actions and learn proper etiquette. Without my permission, you shall not leave. In reality, the prince was protecting Ruoli. If she remained outside, she'd be constantly targeted by Xu Fangyi, damaging her reputation, and possibly leading to serious conflict. Confinement was safer. Xu Fangyi, thinking she'd won, gloated. Ugly woman, you dare challenge me. Her maid was naive, believing her scheme had turned the prince against Ruoli. Xu Fangyi, a master manipulator, despite her temporary victory, knew the prince wasn't truly angry with Ruoli, otherwise the punishment wouldn't be so light. She decided to escalate things, taking out a bottle of medicine, planning to give it to Ruoli for her facial injury, to please the prince and eliminate a future threat. Ruoli, confined, was doodling on paper, clearly not understanding the prince's intentions. Suddenly, a voice came from behind. What's this? It was the prince, wanting to test Ruoli's feelings for him. Ruoli, startled, thinking it was the masked man, turned around and blurted, holy shit. The prince, again appearing as the masked man, was amused. What's holy shit? Ruoli, flustered, explained, it's a compliment for a handsome man. She was disappointed with the man's security. Anyone can just walk in. The masked man, whom she considered a friend, said, why are you here? This is the prince's manor. What if you're caught? The masked prince leaned closer to Ruoli. No reason. I missed you, so I came. Ruoli immediately turned back seriously. Don't talk nonsense. I am the princess consort. The princess consort wants to use the identity of the white-masked prince to release her true nature and express her feelings to Ruoli. Isn't your identity as princess consort used to deceive others? Why can't I miss you and like you? Ruoli suddenly became sentimental. Although I originally stayed in the prince's mansion against my will, but after all the time spent with the prince. Although she still spoke harshly, she knew she had fallen for the prince. Unable to accept the white-masked prince's feelings, she confessed that her heart already belonged to someone else. The prince seriously asked her, "Are you saying this because you're afraid of the constraints of the prince's mansion? As long as you speak, I can take you away anytime." Ruoli sighed. Besides this prince's mansion, where else can I go? Seeing Ruoli so melancholic, the prince panicked slightly and asked, "What's wrong? Did I say something wrong?" In fact, the prince's words made her homesick. The prince asked, "Is it Wanfu?" But according to the prince's investigation, there were no people Ruoli cared about in Wanfu. Ruoli thought about the St century, herself as a spy. Perhaps due to today's disappointment, Ruoli lied to the white-masked prince. "If I said him not from this era, but from the future, would you believe me?" The prince's face was full of question marks. This was simply unbelievable to him. Ruoli immediately reacted. Even she wouldn't believe these words from a different perspective. Unexpectedly, the prince suddenly took her hand. "I believe you. Because I can feel that you are different from other women." But there was no joy in Ruoli's eyes. The person in front of her was not the prince. She immediately withdrew her hand, her heart in turmoil. The prince behind the white mask felt a little jealous knowing these words Ruoli had never said to the prince. Wearing a mask and appearing as another identity, the prince was able to express his true feelings directly. He pressed Ruoli. "Why didn't you tell the prince? Are you afraid he won't believe you?" The prince even pressed further. "You care about him a lot, right?" Speaking of the prince, Ruoli's face involuntarily flushed. She still spoke harshly. "I don't. Don't talk nonsense." The prince continued to tease. "Then let me ask you, do you like the prince or me?" Ruoli was flustered. She had never thought about anything happening with the white-masked prince. "Why are you suddenly acting like this?" Suddenly, an abrupt knock on the door interrupted them. It turned out to be that green tea, Shufangi, requesting an audience. Ruoli and the prince were both shocked. Why was Shufangi here? What was she up to? Regardless, they couldn't let her see the white-masked prince. Ruoli anxiously pushed the white-masked prince, urging him to hide behind the screen. "If Shufangi finds out, it'll be disastrous." The prince forced Ruoli to be honest. "We are innocent. What are we afraid of? Unless you have a guilty conscience." Ruoli seriously declared, "I only consider you a friend I can talk to. I can't let others misunderstand." The prince keenly caught her words. "Who are these others you can't let misunderstand? Anyway, it's not you." Ruoli anxiously covered him up, facilitating his hiding. In her heart, she was also annoyed. What's wrong with her? Disrupting my private life. Now I have to deal with this drama queen. Shufangi was already knocking on the door. "Sister, who are you talking to?" Ruoli opened the door with a smile. "You must have heard wrong. I'm alone. Is there something you need?" Shufangi held a bowl of medicine, pretending to sincerely apologize to Ruoli. Ruoli knew this was a pretense, and wanted to see what tricks she was playing. She curiously asked, "What is this?" Shufangi claimed it was the antidote for the skin-rotting incense. "Sister, I've learned some medicine and I know there's a poison that can rot the skin in the incense burner. Your wound has been slow to heal precisely because you've been poisoned." Hearing this, Ruoli immediately understood. It was indeed the Empress doing. "Then why are you telling me this?" Shufangi acted concerned, offering the medicine and saying that she felt guilty for causing a misunderstanding during the flower arrangement competition, which resulted in Ruoli being punished. She wanted to take this opportunity to reconcile. Seeing her sincerity, Ruoli accepted the medicine. Back in the room, the prince in the white mask immediately emerged, knowing Shufangi had delivered medicine, and asked Ruoli if she believed her. Ruoli said it was hard to say since she suddenly acted so righteous, but Shufangi hadn't left. She quietly leaned against the door to eavesdrop. At this moment, she was certain she hadn't heard wrong and confirmed the voice in the room was a man's. She immediately cleared her throat and entered. Inside, Ruoli was still wondering if Shufani had changed her ways. After eavesdropping several times before, she no longer believed in her transformation. The prince thought, if this medicine was personally delivered by him, then he couldn't escape responsibility. So there shouldn't be a problem, right? Ruoli revealed a cunning smile. Not necessarily. Since she dared to give it to me, she must have made thorough preparations. Let me see what's in this medicine. The prince thought, my princess consort is indeed extraordinary. He was very curious, just one glance and you can tell the toxicity. Others certainly couldn't, but Ruoli had high-tech assistance. She confidently replied, of course. Xiaji mischievously teased Ruoli, if I don't help you, what will you do? Ruoli pleaded with Xiaji, please help, I've already boasted. As a partner, Xiaji naturally helped. Lifting its high-tech scanner, it quickly analyzed the composition of the medicine. The prince, watching Ruoli's confident look, wondered, can she really tell the toxicity with just one glance? Shufani was indeed not so kind. While the medicine appeared harmless on the surface, it contained a trace amount of undetectable, fatal Wu Ying poison. After learning the results, Ruoli quickly told the white-masked prince. Then what are you going to do? Ruoli didn't want to involve the white-masked prince in this matter, as it had nothing to do with him, so she urged him to leave quickly. But the prince was enjoying himself, teasing Ruoli, why are you so eager to send me away? Are you afraid your prince will get jealous if he sees us? Ruoli, this little white flower, blushed immediately when the prince was mentioned. She looked away with some disappointment, he wouldn't be jealous of me. The prince, watching Ruoli's blushing face, felt a surge of displeasure. She didn't even avoid other men, and even blushed. This prince really knows how to play. At this time, Shufani brought a group of people and tried to barge in. I just heard a man's voice in sister's room. I'm worried about her safety, so I came back to check on her. It wouldn't be good if something bad happened. Hearing Shufangi's voice at the door, Ruoli had a bad feeling. Although Shufani was the secondary princess consort, Qiao Jiyu, guarding the door, remained dutiful. Secondary princess consort, you must have heard wrong. This servant has been guarding the door. Besides your visit, no one else has come. Shufani was convinced that Ruoli was hiding a man inside. As long as she caught them red-handed, the prince would truly be disgusted with her. How could she miss such a good opportunity? She continued her concerned pretense. If sister is really in danger, can you bear the responsibility? Qiao Jiyu remained unyielding, responding firmly, this servant only knows that without the prince's or princess consort's orders, no one is allowed to step into this room. Outside they were in a stalemate, inside Ruoli was panicking. Shufani is right outside the door. What should I do? She came here with such fanfare, she's definitely trying to cause trouble. Qiao Jiyu can't hold on for much longer. The prince behind the white mask calmly drank tea, not panicking at all, just quietly watching Ruoli's panic. Ruoli racked her brains thinking how to prevent them from discovering the white-masked prince. Climbing out the window. No, they'll definitely see. Hiding him in the closet. No, if he's discovered, it'll be even harder to explain. What she feared most was the prince misunderstanding. What to do? If he sees this, he will definitely misunderstand. Speaking of the prince, she suddenly had an idea. Turning to look at the white-masked prince, at this point, I can only use this method. The prince stared at by her intense gaze. Broke out in a cold sweat. What are you planning to do? Ruoli said, take off your mask. The prince's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that she discovered something? He feigned composure. Why? The prince thought he had disguised himself well. Besides, Ruoli was a little naive and hadn't discovered his true identity. He thought she wanted to temporarily disguise him as the prince to resolve the Shufani crisis. The white-masked prince was shocked. No way, you want me to impersonate the prince? Ruoli seriously replied, that's right. Only this way can we escape this predicament. The prince hesitated, unwilling to agree. Ruoli, unaware, asked puzzledly, why? Don't you trust me? No matter what you look like, I can make you look like the prince. The prince was hesitant, not because of this, but because he didn't know how to refuse. Then why are you hesitating? Ruoli reached out to remove his mask, thinking that as long as she could remove it, she could ask Xiaji to help with the makeup and the crisis would naturally be resolved. As her hand touched the mask and was about to remove it, the prince, whose identity as the white-masked prince couldn't be revealed yet, and had no words to explain, decided to use his actions to muddle through. He caught Ruoli's hand. Just as the mask was about to fall off, his other hand immediately covered Ruoli's eyes. Ruoli was startled. "What are you doing? Let go of me." Hearing the sound of the mask falling, Ruoli's heart was filled with questions. What was going on? Just as she was about to ask, the prince suddenly took the initiative and kissed her, playing a rogue against himself. "Don't you dare open your eyes. Otherwise, I'll continue kissing you until they all see." He held Ruoli tightly. Was this Ruoli's first kiss? Unaware and forced into this situation, she struggled to open her eyes. "I promise, just let me go." Standing still with her eyes obediently closed, the prince picked up the mask and put it back on. "You can open your eyes now." Slightly helpless, Ruoli thought since the white-masked prince refused to remove his mask, she wouldn't force him. She let him find a place to hide, while she figured out how to deal with Shufangi. Meanwhile, Shufangi had already reached the final barrier. Qiao Jiu remained steadfast, refusing to let them in, but Shufangi, relying on her title as secondary princess consort, angrily scolded Qiao Jiu, "Stop using the prince to pressure me. Get out of my way." As she spoke, she pushed the door open. Ruoli was sitting at the table, sipping tea. "What's the matter, sister? Why have you brought so many people?" Shufangi continued her pretense. "Sister, I heard a man's voice in your room and was worried about your safety, so I came." Ruoli casually replied, "Then you can leave. As you can see, I'm safe." Shufangi continued to provoke, "Sister, you're so eager to send me away. Could it be you're hiding something?" At this moment, the prince had removed the white-masked prince disguise and returned to his sickly appearance, coming to Ruoli's rescue. "What's happening?" Ignoring Shufangi's aggressive posture, Ruoli ran to the prince's side, taking the initiative to attack, fighting fire with fire, leaving Shufangi with no way out. "I was resting, but the secondary princess consort repeatedly brought people to disturb me and even forced her way into my room. It's truly unsettling." Shufangi also refused to be outdone, falsely accusing Ruoli. This servant is also concerned about sister's safety and the reputation of the prince's mansion. Then she pretended to be hesitant, letting her maid, Wan, play the villain. "Your Highness, this servant just saw the princess consort with a masked man in her room, behaving intimately." Both the prince and Ruoli were stunned. Did they really see them? Shufangi slapped Wan across the face. This was prearranged. Her image as a delicate flower couldn't be tarnished. Feigning anger, "How dare you slander the princess consort?" Wan, kneeling on the ground, continued her pretense of being wronged. "This is a serious matter, this servant dare not conceal anything. That man is currently hiding in the princess consort's room. If your highness doesn't believe me, you can have someone search." Even after being slapped, she didn't change her story, showing her words were more valuable than gold. Shufangi took the opportunity to add fuel to the fire, inciting the prince. "Since this servant's maid rarely lies, and the matter is of great importance, please investigate. Your highness, to clear this servant's name." Ruoli, watching these two, one playing the good cop, the other the bad cop, could only see what the prince would do. Shufangi thought to herself, "Trying to fight me. Let's see how you get out of this." But unexpectedly, the prince said seriously, "This prince knows the princess consort's character best. There's no need to investigate this matter further." Shufangi and Wan were both stunned. What was going on? He didn't even care about being cuckolded. Shufangi's plan had failed, and she couldn't accept it. Forgetting her pretense, she relentlessly tugged at the prince. "Even if you trust sister, you must consider the reputation of the prince's mansion. Moreover, if this matter spreads, sister will also be subjected to gossip." When the prince, disguised as the white-masked hero, learned of Consort Zu's poisoning attempt, he grew colder and ordered, "Consort Shu, control your servants' tongues. If any rumors or slander about the princess reach my ears, you will be held accountable." Consort Shu was dumbfounded again. This deviated drastically from her expectations. It wasn't following the script at all. It didn't end there. The prince continued to deal with this restless, two-faced woman. "Since you insist a man is hidden in the princess' room, I will stay with her tonight and see who is so bold." Consort Shu immediately knelt and tugged at the prince's robe. She couldn't accept the prince staying with Ruoli, ignoring her. "Your highness, my accusations are true. There is no falsehood. On my first night in the manor, I warned you to behave. You swore you would, yet you started scheming the next day. The prince kicked her away. Since you're so certain, you will stay outside the door tonight and watch. If no man but me appears, prepare to face the consequences of slandering the princess. Consort Shu was completely stunned, collapsing to the floor. Why was this happening? Ruoli searched the entire room, but couldn't find the white-masked hero. It was strange. Where could he have hidden? Could he have escaped through the secret passage? But how did he know about it? Lost in thought, the prince, freshly bathed, revealing his 8-pack abs, walked over. What are you thinking about? Ruoli's eyes lit up. The last time she saw this was at the pool. Then, shyly averting her gaze, she turned away. The prince pulled Ruoli closer and pinned her beneath him. You are my princess. If you want to look openly. Ruoli was flustered. What was he doing? She began, Your Highness, why are you suddenly acting like this? Are you really angry? The prince gazed intently at Ruoli. Are you unwilling? Is there really a man hidden here? Is your heart elsewhere? Ruoli was bewildered. Don't be ridiculous. The prince silenced her with a deep kiss. Perhaps, provoked, he was ready to confess. You can say anything you want. Because I like you. At this moment, not only did the prince reveal his true feelings, but Ruoli also responded, actively kissing him back. Faced with Ruoli's passionate response, the prince was slightly taken aback. At this moment, Ruoli understood her own feelings. She hadn't responded to the white-masked hero, yet now she actively kissed the prince. The prince also understood the difference, overjoyed. The woman in my arms likes me. At this moment, they both finally acknowledged their true feelings. The next morning, the prince and Ruoli emerged from their room, radiant and full of energy. The prince thanked Consort Shu, who had been kneeling outside the door all night. Thanks to Miss Shu, the princess and I slept very peacefully last night. Having knelt all night, Consort Shu could barely stand. She pleaded, Your Highness, please forgive the princess. She's frail and can't kneel any longer. After all, Consort Shu had a powerful family. This was enough of a lesson. Ruoli also spoke up for her. Naturally, the prince wanted to give Ruoli face. Since the princess pleads for you, return to your room. If this happens again, I will not be lenient. He left with Ruoli without a second glance. Servants helped the weak Consort Shu back to her room. Once alone, Consort Shu glared at Ruoli's retreating figure, not grateful for her intercession, but filled with even more hatred. Wan Ruoli, you humiliated me today. I will make you pay. Xiao Xiao saw his mother from afar and ran towards her. He had missed his mother dearly these past few days and happily threw himself into her arms. Mother. Xiao Xiao missed you so much. Ruoli apologized for her absence, but Xiao Xiao reassured her, saying he wanted his parents to have some alone time. Such a cute and understanding child. Ruoli couldn't resist pinching his cheeks. He was so mature for his age. The prince watched the affectionate mother and son with a warm heart. Xiao Xiao then asked if anyone had bullied Ruoli. Ruoli laughed. Of course not. Mother has daddy and Xiao Xiao to protect her. I'm not afraid of anyone. Ever since Ruoli brought him back, Xiao Xiao had vowed to protect her and wouldn't let anyone bully her. He even told Ruoli that the prince had taught him some swordsmanship. The prince, also overflowing with love, decided to nurture Xiao Xiao since Ruoli treated him like her own. You're very happy. If you had your own child, you would definitely be a good father. The prince pulled Ruoli closer. Then when do you plan to give me my own child? Ruoli blushed and pushed him away. What are you doing? Xiao Xiao is here. Xiao Xiao, oblivious, cheered them on. Mother, Xiao Xiao wants younger siblings. Preferably 2 brothers and a sister, so I can be the big brother. Ruoli had a headache. Why were both of them so improper? The family of 3 played together, a heartwarming scene. Meanwhile, Consort Shu was scheming again. A servant reported to the prince and princess, the secondary consort, has committed suicide. At the same time, in the imperial palace, the emperor received news of Consort Zhu's suicide and flew into a rage. The empress rushed to the emperor, pleading for him to intervene on behalf of her cousin. The prince, Ruoli, and the scheming Consort Shu were summoned to the palace. The emperor immediately questioned the prince. A newly wedded secondary consort committed suicide in the manor. Is this true? The prince shielded Ruoli. Consort Shu framed the princess first. When exposed, she feigned suicide. Consort Shu cried out, "Your Majesty, the princess bullied me and monopolized the prince. I wanted to contribute to the royal bloodline, but haven't shared the prince's bed since my arrival." The empress gasped, inwardly cursing her foolish cousin for failing such a simple task. Ruoli retorted, "Do you know the punishment for deceiving the emperor? I won't let you slander me." Consort Shu played the victim, pulling out a hairpin to stab herself to prove her innocence. But Ruoli wasn't playing along. "If you want to stab yourself to prove your point, go ahead. I'll watch," she said coldly. Consort Shu panicked. This wasn't going as planned. She looked to the empress for help. The empress, eager to get rid of Ruoli, coldly waited for her to act, planning to intervene after. Trapped, Consort Shu hesitantly scratched her arm with the hairpin. The emperor, losing his patience, saw her hesitation. "It seems the princess indeed has the demeanor of a proper consort." He then declared, "Consort Shu is to be confined to her quarters for her lies and slander against the princess." The emperor was secretly delighted. This way, he could legitimately punish Ruoli for disrespect. The prince, now dropping his act of weakness, confronted the emperor. "She is my consort. The emperor needn't interfere in my household affairs." Directly confronting the emperor wouldn't benefit them. Ruoli saw consorts thus wound, and decided to use it to expose their scheme. This way, she wouldn't be punished for disrespect. Ruoli approached Consort Shu with the ointment. "Sister, such a deep wound might scar. Here, this is the ointment you gave me. Let me apply it for you." Consort Shu refused to use the ointment she had gifted, terrified. Ruoli feigned ignorance. "What's wrong? Didn't you say this was the most effective medicine for wounds?" Panicked, Consort Shu continued to refuse. Ruoli seized the opportunity. "Sister, why won't you use the miracle ointment you gifted? Could it be poisoned?" Ruoli dramatically removed her veil, revealing her slightly disfigured cheek. "Your Majesty, since using this ointment, my wound has worsened." Consort Shu not only harmed the princess, but also lied. "Before you. Please punish her severely." Consort Shu frantically denied responsibility. Ruoli pressed on, forcing her to implicate the empress. "It wasn't you. I've already confirmed this ointment is poisoned. Don't bother lying." Consort Shu, betrayed by the empress, blurted out, "It wasn't the ointment. It was the empress knife that was poisoned. Why are you blaming me?" The emperor was shocked that the empress would harm the woman he favored. The empress was equally shocked that her cousin had betrayed her. Before more secrets could be revealed, the empress claimed Consort Shu was a madwoman, and ordered her dragged away. Ruoli wouldn't let that happen. Raising her voice, she addressed the emperor. "So, the empress intentionally cut my face with a poisoned knife. But why? We have no quarrel." This was directed at the emperor. "Your woman pretends to support you, but secretly uses dirty tricks against your chosen consort." The empress tried to explain but received a harsh slap from the emperor. Safely back at the manor, Xiao Xiao excitedly recounted, "Did you see that slap? So satisfying." Consort Shu, reaping what she sowed, was confined for life, never to leave the palace again. The manor was peaceful again, with only one princess. Ruoli was pleased. "Don't think him a pushover just because I'm quiet." Misunderstanding, the prince thought she wanted a cat. Ruoli quickly clarified. He then informed her he had invited the best physician to treat her wound. Ruoli revealed her face was already healed. She had formulated an antidote as soon as she analyzed the poison, maintaining the disguise to trap Consort Shu. Ruoli waited for the prince's praise. "Their petty tricks are no match for my advanced technology. I had to let them reveal their true nature." Relieved, the prince chuckled. "You have so many tricks up your sleeve. You had me worried." With her beauty restored, Ruoli decided to celebrate with some shopping. "Your Highness, let's take Xiao Xiao out, shall we?" The prince saw through her. "You want to go out, don't you?" Ruoli admitted it. "Yes. I'm going stir crazy." Soon, on the streets of the capital, the family of three was seen strolling happily, the prince trailing behind, laden with Ruoli's purchases. Suddenly, Xiao Xiao's eyes lit up, calling for Ruoli to stop. Ahead was a cosmetics shop. Curious about ancient makeup, Ruoli eagerly went inside. The prince sighed, his arms full of bags. How could she still be so energetic after shopping for so long? Didn't she get tired? Inside the shop, Ruoli witnessed a man berating and kicking a woman. The woman, the shop owner, explained through tears that her husband had a mistress, and needing money, wanted to sell her shop. The shop was her mother's dowry, and she refused to sell it, enduring his abuse. Ruoli, enraged, intervened. Who are you to hit her? Not content with stealing another woman's husband, you want to steal her shop too. Who are you? Stay out of our business. Ruoli slammed a large silver note on the table. This is enough to buy 3 of these shops. Leave her and the shop alone, and the money is yours. The greedy couple's eyes lit up. They immediately agreed, even writing a divorce agreement on the spot. They left with the money, leaving the prince exasperated. You let them off too easily. Ruoli had plans for the. She wouldn't let them off so easily. Don't worry, they'll get what they deserve. The grateful shop owner, Lu Qingqing, offered Ruoli her best cosmetics as thanks. Lu Qingqing's products were exquisite and flattering. Ruoli asked, did you make these yourself? Lu Qingqing nodded. Please don't dislike them. Ruoli was curious. Why don't you use them yourself? Lu Qingqing, a plain-looking girl, felt insecure about her appearance, lamenting that even the finest cosmetics were wasted on her. She believed her looks were the source of all her suffering. Ruoli, using her own makeup skills, helped Lu Qingqing regain her confidence. Looking at herself in the mirror, Lu Qingqing was overjoyed. How did you do this? She exclaimed. Seeing Lu Qingqing's joy, Ruoli offered to teach her the art of makeup, so she wouldn't be bullied in the looks-obsessed Dongsheng kingdom. Ruoli then seriously asked, do you want to punish that scumbag and his mistress? Lu Qingqing immediately lifted her head. Please tell me how. Ruoli began teaching her the 3 steps of revenge. First, appear before him with a better appearance and a higher status. Let him realize you're better off without him. Lu Qingqing, having endured countless humiliations, nodded eagerly at the chance for revenge. Ruoli let the prince and Xiao return to the manor, staying at the cosmetic shop to help Lu Qingqing. Ruoli gave her a box of specially formulated facial cream. Use this every morning and night. It will tighten and smooth your skin, and fade any blemishes. She also taught her many skincare methods, assuring her that her skin would become fair and smooth. She taught Lu Qingqing how to make milk flower baths, promising her radiant skin. Lu Qingqing, bullied for her looks since childhood, was grateful to Ruoli for showing her that she could control her own destiny. From then on, Lu Qingqing became Ruoli's best friend in the ancient world. 5 days later, at Dongsheng's largest jewelry store, Jianan, already dissatisfied with his new wife, complained about her extravagant spending. The woman, confident in her superior looks, retorted, I sent it to give you face. Otherwise, you can go back to that ugly, sallow-faced Lu Qingqing. Jianan shuddered. Don't mention that ugly monster. Just thinking about her makes me sick. Buy whatever you want. Ruoli, disguised as a man, brought Lu Qingqing to the store, intentionally appearing before Jianan and his mistress. They offered to buy the jewelry Jianan's mistress had her eye on. Acting like a domineering CEO, Ruoli told Lu Qingqing, anything you like, just say it. This was to get Jianan's attention. Jianan was shocked. Is that really that ugly Lu Qingqing? He exclaimed in disbelief. How did you become so beautiful? His mistress, unaware of the situation, sneered, so the ugly duckling learned how to seduce men. Dreaming of becoming a phoenix, Qiao Jiu, Ruoli's servant, immediately slapped the mistress. How dare you insult Master Wan and Miss Lu? Jianan yelled, who are you? How dare you hit my woman? Qiao Jiu retorted, with a mouth that foul, I thought she was some untamed shrew. Jianan angrily threatened them. The next second, Qiao Gusguard seized him and threw him to the ground. How dare you offend Master Wan? Jianan, seeing the situation, realized these were powerful people he couldn't afford to offend. Ruoli began the second step of her plan. Humbling Jianan to make him regret his actions. Lu Qingqing quickly interjected, Master Wan, please show mercy. Although our marriage is over, I can't bear to see him beaten. Ruoli responded, since Miss Lu has spoken, I'll let him go. Lu Qingqing then rushed over, feigning concern for Jianan. Jianan, facing the now beautiful Lu Qingqing, began to feel regret, mistakenly believing her concern was genuine. His mistress, seeing this, scolded Jianan. What about me? What am I to you? Jianan, comparing the 2 women, now found Lu Qingqing more beautiful, thrifty, and gentle. He instantly felt disgusted with his mistress. He shoved her aside, and she fell against a table leg, hitting her head and bleeding. Qiao Jiu immediately stepped forward to help the mistress. Someone, call the officials. He assaulted her. Jianan quickly denied it. I didn't. She bumped into it herself. He needed a witness. He looked at Lu Qingqing. You saw it, right? She bumped into it herself. You have to testify for me. Lu Qingqing remembered Ruoli's third step. Adding fuel to the fire to ruin Jianan completely. She looked coldly at Jianan. This is your fault. How could you hit someone? Assault is a crime. The onlookers also criticized Jianan. He stood there, dumbfounded. What's going on? I thought she still cared for me. Why isn't she helping me? Having helped Lu Qingqing deal with Jianan and regain her confidence, Ruoli returned to the manor. With her magical makeup and the advanced cosmetics of Dongsheng, she began developing modern makeup brushes and tools for mass production. These chicken feather brushes are amazing, she exclaimed. Otherwise, you'd have to pluck dozens of rabbits to make one. Chicken feathers are the best. The prince and Xiao Xiao came to see her. Ruoli looked at her adorable son, now resembling the prince. Xiao Xiao shouted, Mother. Father taught me so many characters today. Ruoli praised him. Xiao Xiao is so smart. She then playfully turned to the prince. Father helped too. The prince, slightly embarrassed by the term father, changed the subject. The Empress Dowager's birthday is approaching. What gift should we prepare? Ruoli was unsure of the Empress Dowager's preferences. The prince subtly hinted that the Empress Dowager valued children, implying that a pregnancy would be the best gift. Ruoli, misunderstanding, suggested bringing Xiao Xiao to the celebration. The prince's hopes were dashed. Ruoli then dismissed the idea, realizing the Empress Dowager didn't know about Xiao Xiao yet. Xiao Xiao thought, Mother is so naive. She didn't even understand father's hint. I need to help her. He worried about his mother's safety at the banquet, and decided to assist her. The Empress Dowager's birthday arrived. The palace was lavishly decorated. Qiao Jiu carried Ruoli's gift. Ruoli worried if the Empress Dowager would like it. Qiao Jiu reassured her, no woman can resist the allure of beauty. Suddenly, they heard the sound of something breaking and a woman's angry voice. A woman in red, Lin Wan Ying, the daughter of the Minister of Revenue, was berating Ning Fei, a princess from Nanzhong Kingdom, who had come to Dongsheng for an arranged marriage. Ruoli was surprised. How could a minister's daughter scold a princess? Ning Fei, new to Dongsheng and without support, was often bullied, especially by the arrogant Lin Wan Ying. Ning Fei offered her handmade gift, but Lin Wan Ying, disdainful, knocked it to the ground, shattering it. Ruoli, seeing the injustice, stepped in. Miss Lin, is this how your family repays kindness? Lin Wan Ying retorted, who are you? Ning Fei introduced Ruoli. The princess consort, Wan Ruoli. Lin Wan Ying, unafraid, mocked Ruoli. I heard the prince is on his deathbed. Why is the princess consort so meddlesome? Ruoli, insulted, decided to teach her a lesson. Miss Lin, if discussing your family's favor is considered meddlesome, then consider me nosy. This piqued Lin Wan Ying's interest. Ruoli dramatically exclaimed, Miss Lin's gift of a potted pine symbolizes the Empress Dowager's longevity, correct? Lin Wan Ying, confused, replied, what's wrong with that? Nothing today, but a pine thrives in nature. Confined to a pot, it's stunted. Do you think the Empress Dowager will be pleased or angered? Lin Wan Ying recalled her father's warnings about the Emperor's strained relationship with the Empress Dowager. She realized the gift could be seen as a provocation. She panicked, blaming her servant and apologizing to Ning Fei before fleeing. Ruoli returned the ruined embroidery to Ning Fei, curious about the veil she wore. Ning Fei tearfully revealed a disfiguring rash on her face, explaining why she was shunned by the Emperor and others. She had hoped to impress the Empress Dowager, but now felt hopeless. Ning Fei lamented that her condition prevented her from gaining favor. Ruoli, having already decided to help, asked about Ning Fei's condition. With her advanced cosmetics, she could easily solve the problem. Ning Fei, desperate for the Emperor's attention, agreed to anything. Ruoli decided to disguise herself as Ning Fei to help her shine at the banquet. With her advanced makeup, Ruoli transformed into Ning Fei's double. Even Ning Fei was amazed. This disguise is incredible. We're identical. Ning Fei then taught Ruoli a traditional Nanzhong dance. Thanks to her spy training, Ruoli quickly mastered the moves. Dressed as Ning Fei, Ruoli arrived at the banquet. I apologize for my lateness, Your Majesty and Your Highness. The Empress Dowager, understanding Ning Fei's unfamiliarity with customs, overlooked her tardiness. There were also other factors at play. A minister spoke up. I hear Nanzhong is known for its elegant dances. Perhaps Princess Ning Fei could perform for us. Others whispered, knowing the minister, Lin Wan Ying's father, was trying to humiliate Ning Fei. The emperor, intrigued by Ning Fei, expressed his desire to see the dance. Ruoli, removing her veil and outer robe, began to dance. With graceful movements, a captivating melody, and a stunning appearance, Ruoli, as Ning Fei, captivated the audience. She even sang a traditional Nanzhong song. The emperor, smitten, offered her a gift and invited her to sit beside him. The Empress Dowager frowned. Others murmured about impropriety. Ruoli, realizing the situation had become more complicated than intended, felt uneasy. Minister Lin, oblivious, urged Ning Fei to accept the emperor's invitation. The emperor, ignoring his mother's displeasure, pressed Ning Fei. "Are you unwilling to sit beside me?" Minister Lin, ever the sycophant, chimed in. "Don't refuse the emperor's favor, your highness." Ruoli was caught in a dilemma. Lin Wan Ying watched with amusement, enjoying Ning Fei's predicament. Just then, Xiao Xiao threw a porcelain bowl on the floor. The shard shattered at Ruoli's feet. Suddenly, she had an idea. If she stepped on it and injured herself, she wouldn't offend either side. The prince, though Ruoli was disguised as noble consort Ning, recognized her, and guessed she was trying to avoid trouble. He couldn't bear to see her hurt herself and wanted to help, even if it meant trouble for himself. He was about to speak, but Xiao Xiao ran over and interrupted. "Noble consort Ning. Be careful." Before the banquet, Xiao Xiao worried his mother would face trouble. He had a natural gift of premonition. Even though Ruoli was disguised, he knew it was his mother. Now, he lied, claiming he'd broken the plate while playing. "I'm sorry, noble consort Ning." The prince was shocked, wondering how Xiao Xiao was here. Xiao Xiao continued, "Wow. Noble consort Ning's dress is beautiful, but it's a shame it trailed in the tea." Ruoli quickly knelt, saying her dress was dirty and she didn't want to offend the Empress Dowager and Emperor. She requested permission to change. This clever excuse diffused the situation. The Empress Dowager readily agreed. The Emperor, though reluctant, couldn't openly defy his mother and acquiesced. The Empress Dowager, intrigued by Xiao Xiao, asked whose child he was, praising his intelligence and manners. Xiao Xiao replied respectfully, "Your Majesty, Xiao Xiao has been with the acrobats since childhood, and is here today to assist in the performance. May your Majesty live long and prosper like the Eastern." See, he had used all the auspicious phrases he knew, desperately searching for more, but his bewildered look was endearing. The Empress Dowager laughed heartily, delighted, and rewarded Xiao Xiao with a pair of gold bracelets. Xiao Xiao thanked her politely. The ministers praised his wit, saying he would have a bright future if he were of noble birth. Xiao Xiao, watching Ruoli escape safely, thought, "Mother is too kind, always wanting to help those in need. Luckily, I snuck into the palace and could help her." "That's great." After leaving the banquet, Ruoli met Ning Fei in a secluded pavilion and they swapped clothes back. Ning Fei urged her to return to the palace, avoid going out or receiving visitors for a few days, and let the emperor's suspicion subside while he found a way to heal her face. Ruoli thanked Ning Fei and left, urging her to be careful. This scene was witnessed by the empress maid, who learned of their identity swap. She rushed to report it, thinking she could finally bring down noble consort Ning. She thought she was the empress favorite, but the real favorite was behind her, leaving her no chance to bring down noble consort Ning. The two were assassins arranged by the prince, specifically to deal with Ruoli's pursuers. Appearances can be deceiving. After changing back, Ning Fei had her maid report everything to the Empress Dowager. Meanwhile, Ruoli returned to the banquet as the princess, seemingly calm and composed. The prince whispered in Ruoli's ear, praising her quick thinking. "So you knew all along?" Ruoli asked, surprised. The prince, recalling Ruoli's moves, thought, no noble family would teach their daughter martial arts, let alone such powerful techniques. Is she really from the future? Just then, Xiao Xiao came over and softly called, "Father, Mother." Ruoli pulled him to sit between them, a happy family of three. Suddenly, a shrill voice pierced the air, "Congratulations, Prince and Princess. We were worried about the royal lineage, but now this child appears. Congratulations on your son and heir." Ruoli realized the obnoxious old man and the arrogant Miss Lin were father and daughter, explaining their similar behavior. Seeing the commotion, the emperor joined in, wanting to humiliate the prince. Because Xiao Xiao claimed to be an acrobat, a low status in their eyes, the emperor sneered, "The child resembles the prince. Let him be an adopted son, to ease the prince's loneliness for an heir." He laughed derisively. The guests murmured, "How can the emperor ask the prince to adopt a lowly acrobat's child?" This is a blatant insult. The prince, who had been pondering how to give Xiao Xiao a proper title, seized the opportunity. Your Majesty's words are gold. Let the child be my adopted son. Xiao Xiao could finally appear in public legitimately. The three were overjoyed. The intended humiliation backfired. The emperor, expecting them to be upset, saw their joy and left, annoyed. The empress, suspicious of Xiao Xiao, instructed consort Wan to question him. The banquet progressed to the gift-giving. Minister Lin presented a flowing cloud brocade, decent but not exceptional. The Empress Dowager, unimpressed, said politely, "Thank you, Minister Lin, for your effort." Ruoli, disliking the old man, asked the prince about Minister Lin's background. "He's the Minister of Revenue, exploiting his position and amassing wealth," the prince replied. He expected Lin to make a move at the banquet, but the ordinary gift suggested he was cautious. Ruoli had an idea. Since Lin was hiding his corruption well, she would target his daughter. Lin's daughter, arrogant and eager for attention, wouldn't be outdone. Ruoli planned to bait her into revealing her father's corruption, then deal with them both. The prince and Ruoli knelt to present their gift. The Empress Dowager, seeing Ruoli, inquired about her facial injury. Ruoli replied, "Thank you for your concern, Your Majesty. I've recovered." The Empress Dowager's inquiry was a veiled warning to the Empress. Ruoli understood the message, sensing tension between the two. Ruoli then addressed Lin Wanin, provoking her subtly. "Knowing Your Majesty appreciates rare treasures, I wouldn't dare offer anything ordinary. I've been studying skincare," she began. She presented a set of skincare products. "May Your Majesty enjoy eternal youth and beauty." Lin Wanin, arrogant and competitive, scoffed at Ruoli's gift, considering the brocade far superior. She had something special planned. "No woman can resist beauty and youth," she declared. The Empress Dowager was intrigued and asked Ruoli to elaborate. "Sheng Guo has always valued beauty. Both men and women appreciate a beautiful appearance. Besides makeup, skincare is crucial. This set caters to different skin needs. Would Your Majesty like to try it?" The Empress Dowager, eager to try, requested a demonstration. Ruoli applied some to the Empress Dowager's hand. "It's cool and refreshing, with a pleasant scent," the Empress Dowager exclaimed. Ruoli sighed in relief. The Empress Dowager seemed pleased. Ruoli smiled. "I was worried Your Majesty would find it too simple." The Empress Dowager praised Ruoli's thoughtfulness, subtly criticizing the Empress. The Empress forced a smile. "Indeed, the princess is so thoughtful. Your Majesty is fortunate." Lin Wanin couldn't bear it any longer. She stood up to defend the Empress, attacking Ruoli, unaware her father was sweating profusely beside her. "Your Majesty," she began, "please forgive my interruption. My gift." She boasted about her father's position as Minister of Revenue, praising a corrupt official. Wanting to outshine Ruoli, she had her servants bring in her real gift, confident the Empress Dowager would love it, unaware she was digging her father's grave. Her gift was a Ziyu mountain vase, a rare antique worth a fortune. The Empress Dowager had long desired this vase, fueling Lin Wanin's confidence. She was gloating, oblivious to the impending disaster. Seeing the vase, the prince signaled Minister Liu, who held evidence of Lin's corruption. Minister Liu stood up. "Your Majesty, Minister Lin's gift is impressive, but how did he acquire such a treasure?" "I heard he coerced the owner to sell it for a pittance. I have a good relationship with the owner. I borrowed it," Lin stammered. "I heard he offered 1,000 gold pieces, but was refused, then resorted to coercion. He not only cheated the owner, but also deceived Your Majesty," Liu retorted. The Empress Dowager was furious. A court official engaging in corruption and deceit. This must be investigated. She ordered the Lin family imprisoned, pending investigation. Lin Wanin never imagined her gift would land her family in jail. This was thanks to the prince's planning. Ruoli was praising the prince, wondering if Xiao Xiao and Qiao Jiyu had returned safely, when Xie Ji rushed in, crying, "Ruoli! Xiao Xiao has been taken by the Empress and consort Wan." Ruoli had sent Xie Ji to follow Xiao Xiao. Outside the palace, consort Wan's men grabbed Xiao Xiao. Xie Ji followed them to a remote palace called Cold Palace. But as a spirit, he couldn't interfere. Ruoli was furious. "They dare touch Xiao Xiao. I'll make them pay." She rushed out. The prince, unaware of what happened, was confused. At Cold Palace, consort Wan pricked Xiao Xiao's finger, demanding he reveal his relationship with the prince. This might explain Xiao Xiao's fear of consort Wan. Though terrified and in pain, he refused to speak, protecting his parents. The Empress and consort Wan watched coldly, smirking. Guided by Shiji, Ruoli quickly arrived. After dealing with the guards, she kicked the door open. The Empress and consort Wan were shocked. Ruoli. How did you find this place? Ruoli ignored their questions, rushing to Xiao Xiao. The Empress, feeling powerful in her domain, decided to eliminate Ruoli as well. She ordered her guards to seize Ruoli, underestimating the seemingly frail princess. They were about to learn a harsh lesson. Ruoli rolled up her sleeves. You dare touch my son. She rescued Xiao Xiao, then turned to the guards. Enraged, she punched one guard, sending him crashing to the ground. The other guard tried to restrain her, but she swiftly threw him down. He cried out in pain. Ruoli stood tall. Did you think my martial arts training was for nothing? Worried for his mother, Xiao Xiao cried, Mother. They want to hurt you. Run, Moli's scale control party. Hurry up and untie the god's son for Xiao Xiao. Xiao Xiao suffered Rong Momo's cruel treatment, his soul deeply wounded. Yet he still comforted Ruoli, constantly saying he was fine. Ruoli looked at the trembling Xiao Xiao self-reproachfully. At this moment, Xiao Xiao was still concerned about his feelings. Ruoli, with tears in her eyes, held Xiao Xiao tightly in her arms. I'm sorry, Xiao Xiao. It's mother's fault. I didn't protect you well. Empress Shinji still didn't know she would be whipped tonight. She arrogantly raised her chin. Wan Ruoli, how dare you trespass into the inner palace? Ruoli ignored the Empress' reprimand and simply asked Xiao Xiao, was it these two bad women who bullied you? Xiao Xiao nodded. Ruoli picked up the rope that had just bound Xiao Xiao. Xiao Xiao, watch carefully. Mother will avenge you. Seeing Ruoli's posture, it was clear she was about to attack them. Wan Fei panicked. The Empress remained haughty. What are you afraid of? How dare she defy her superiors? What if I do defy you? Ruoli slapped the Empress. What can you do to me? Wan Fei. Everyone was shocked. Is this still my weak and cowardly sister? She must be crazy. She dared to hit the Empress. The arrogant Empress didn't expect Ruoli to actually hit her. She was furious and wished she could skin her alive. How dare you hit me? How dare you rebel? From the moment they laid their hands on Xiao Xiao, Ruoli's fury was ignited. So what if I hit you? Do I need to pick a day to do so? She slapped Wan Fei, who ran away screaming, help. Zhong Wangfei is rebelling. Before she reached the door, Ruoli grabbed her hair and dragged her back. Ruoli slammed the door shut. This isn't over. You bullied Xiao Xiao and think you can escape. She fiercely warned them. Your Majesty, she addressed the unseen emperor. Allow me to adopt Xiao Xiao. From now on, he is my, Wan Ruoli's son. If you dare to lay a hand on him again, I swear I will kill you both. The Empress trembled with rage. As the Empress, the mother of the nation, how could she tolerate such threats? Furious, she cursed at Ruoli, Wan Ruoli, unless you kill me today. I will definitely report this to the Emperor. You just wait and pay with your life. Ruoli, hearing the Empress' words, just laughed. Then, Your Majesty, feel free to try. Wan Fei, terrified by Ruoli's fierce demeanor, didn't dare to speak, hiding behind the Empress and crying continuously. The Empress was puzzled. Why does she disregard my threats so easily? Ruoli wasn't actually threatening the Empress. The Emperor of Dongsheng was dissolute and only had eyes for Ning Fei. Why would he care about the Empress? Moreover, the self-proclaimed noble Empress was caught committing such a cruel act. If this matter were brought to the Emperor and Empress Dowager, it would likely be the Empress who wouldn't escape. Unscathed, the Empress still had a trump card, so she remained silent. However, with her status as Empress, she couldn't bear the threats. Seeing the situation escalating, Wan Fei sobbed and tried to persuade the Empress to calm down. If the Emperor and Empress Dowager find out about this, we're finished. It's better to. The enraged Empress slapped her. Shut up. I am the Empress. How can I be humiliated like this? Guards? Reveal yourselves and kill her. I'll bear all the consequences. The hidden silk guards, upon receiving the order, emerged with swords drawn. Ruo Li hadn't expected hidden soldiers. Clinging to Xiao Xiao, she knew she couldn't handle them. She couldn't help but feel nervous. The Empress looked down at Ruo Li, triumphant. Surprised. Since the day I entered the palace, these silk guards have been protecting me. You commoner dare to threaten to kill me. What are you waiting for? Attack, Imperial sister-in-law, do you need help? Zhong Wangye suddenly appeared. How could he know what happened? His subtle sneer sent chills down the Empress' spine. Zhong Wangye, why is it you? She wondered why she didn't see a large number of silk guards. Then, someone reported, Your Highness, all the hidden soldiers have been neutralized. The Empress trump card was gone. She was shocked. So many silk guards disappeared silently. She quickly realized the truth. I thought your frail body and impending death were real. Something I could use against you. It was all an act. Wangye, you trespassed into the inner palace, killed the Empress guards, and now you dare to show your true self. He smiled faintly. Thank you, Imperial sister-in-law, for the reminder. Indeed, the fewer people who know, the better. His smile and words made the Empress uneasy. Her arrogance vanished, and she took a few steps back. What do you want, Wangye? He looked coldly at the Empress and Wan Fei. Kill everyone except these two women. Wangye's soldiers were different from the Empress. They only obeyed his commands. The Empress didn't understand this and, in her desperation, tried to stop them with her authority. Only to be humiliated again. Wangye had no time for her nonsense. He only cared about Ruo Li and Xiao Xiao's safety. His appearance moved Ruo Li and Xiao Xiao deeply. Fortunately, Xiao Xiao wasn't seriously injured, so he took Ruo Li and Xiao Xiao back to the manor. As for the Empress and Wan Fei, their fate was sealed. The two women who had mistreated Xiao Xiao sat on the ground, crying for help. The Empress' dignity and authority were shattered. Now, seeing the officials arrive, she sat there helplessly. Wan Fei hadn't stopped crying since her hair was pulled. Zhong Wangye watched coldly as the guards took them away. He then set fire to the cold palace, destroying all traces. In the carriage, Ruo Li finally relaxed. She apologized to Zhong Wangye. Because he saved her and Xiao Xiao, he had exposed himself, and she feared the emperor might take action against him. Wangye reassured Ruo Li. The Empress and Wan Fei hurt Xiao Xiao first. As his husband and father, I should protect you. As for the emperor, the Shushi festival is approaching. The next day, after the fire at the cold palace, the Empress Dowager summoned the Empress and Wan Fei. She angrily reprimanded the Empress for her mismanagement of the harem, allowing assassins to infiltrate during her birthday celebration. Wan Fei and the Empress knelt, offering their pre-arranged explanation. The Empress Dowager sighed. The Empress, in order to fight those assassins, not only lost her servants, but was also injured. Although not imprisoned, she has suffered greatly. The Empress Dowager felt sorry for the clueless Wan Fei. So, it seems him being unreasonable. Wan Fei quickly lowered her head. That's not what I meant. The Empress Dowager didn't dwell on it. Since the Empress is injured, she should rest well in the palace. As for the lost servants and the burnt palace, I will send people to take care of it. Ruo Li thought. They portrayed the phantom young silk guards as assassins. How can they twist the truth like this? Ruo Li was summoned because the Empress Dowager was interested in the protective talisman he presented yesterday. She found it very useful, and wanted him to popularize it for the benefit of the people. Ruo Li had already intended to do so. Since the Empress Dowager requested it, he gladly agreed to develop more accessible talismans and medicinal products. The Empress Dowager was pleased and praised Ruo Li's intelligence, confirming she hadn't misjudged him. After leaving the Empress Dowager's palace, the Empress spoke sarcastically to Ruo Li. Congratulations, Zhong Wangfei. Congratulations. Ruo Li, with no fondness for the Empress, became wary. What does your Majesty mean? With the Empress Dowager's support, it seems you'll be in charge of the harem soon, right? Knowing the Empress' intentions, Ruo Li cut to the chase. Your Majesty's words are frightening. Even if your Majesty has some grievances, you are still the Empress. Please rest well. I'll take my leave. The Empress cursed behind him, but Ruo Li ignored her. The Empress immediately questioned Wan Fei. Didn't you say Wan Ruoli was weak and easily bullied? What's going on now? Wan Fei was also confused. Thinking of her ugly older sister, who was clearly weak and timid, she seemed to have changed overnight and become difficult to handle. On Mount Luming, the warm breeze blew gently, and the scenery was picturesque. Ruoli took a deep breath of fresh air, free from the palace's suffocating atmosphere. If only Wan Ye and Xiao Xiao were here. Unfortunately, Wan Ye was assisting in the investigation of Minister Ling's corruption case, and couldn't accompany them. Xie Ji was also immersed in the beauty of Mount Luming, her mood lifted. Seeing Ruoli's wistful expression, Xie Ji teased her. Seeing you so love-struck, if you found a way to return to your time, you probably wouldn't want to leave. Ruoli quickly dismissed her words. Live in the present moment, that's what matters most. Hearing wolves howling in the mountains, they immediately stood up, suspecting they had encountered a pack. Countless people had died from wild animal attacks, and the wolves were becoming increasingly bolder. As they walked, they noticed someone surrounded by wolves. Seeing the wolves' large size and aggressive demeanor, Ruoli, moved by compassion, decided to help the surrounded man. She didn't know that this man was her sworn enemy, waiting to assassinate her. Watching the wolves closing in on the man, Xie Ji panicked. What do we do? Ruoli calmly took out a fire starter and blew on it. Don't panic. I've received special training. Wolves are afraid of fire. Just give me the flammable liquid. Ruoli sprayed the liquid Xie Ji gave her onto the fire starter, creating a large flame, and yelled for the man to get away. At this moment, the man, the handsome assassin Wu Ming, was waiting to kill Ruoli, but he didn't expect this scene. Ruoli quickly rushed over to shield him with her back, using the flames to keep the wolves at bay. Hold on a little longer. Find a place to hide. Wu Ming was stunned, realizing Ruoli was saving him. Seeing he hadn't moved, Ruoli urged him again, hide quickly. What are you waiting for? Just as she finished speaking, he finally looked at her. How could it be her? The infamous Zhong Wangfei, who I was supposed to kill. He smirked, and remained motionless. Fortunately, the fire kept the wolves back. Unfortunately, the weather changed abruptly. Lightning flashed, and it looked like it was about to rain, which would extinguish the fire. Worse, Ruoli ran out of flammable liquid before the rain could put out the fire. The wolves, seeing the flames dying, prepared to attack Ruoli and Xie Ji. Xie Ji noticed the change and shouted a warning to Ruoli. Then, the rain started. A clear howl pierced the air. The ferocious wolves instantly turned docile. Wu Ming grabbed Ruoli's hand and led her away. He felt intrigued and curious about her. A spoiled young miss, so composed and resourceful, using fire to repel wolves. Such courage would shame many men. She knows martial arts, understands how to deal with wolves. How many secrets does she hide? He wondered. Wu Ming pulled Ruoli to a dilapidated temple. We should be safe here. The wolves shouldn't be able to find us this far. Qing Jun wasn't about to let Ruoli go. He closed in, his predatory aura intense. Why is Milady alone in the mountains? Sensing danger, Ruoli quickly replied, is this how you treat your savior? Qing Jun pressed closer. Savior? You scared away my pets. Those wolves were my pets. Ruoli was speechless. This guy is the professional assassin sent by the Empress and Wan Fei. No choice then. Then don't blame me for being ruthless. She aimed a kick at his groin, but he caught her leg. Milady is so impatient. I planned to let the wolves maul you to death, but you're so beautiful, and you smell so good. I'm almost reluctant. Ruoli struggled. You pervert. What are you doing? Let me go. Nameless ones respect strength. Ruoli decided to negotiate. Maybe I can trick him. Qing Jun seemed intrigued. Does Milady want pleasure or pain? Ruoli thought, are you insane? I want to live, obviously. Qing Jun was amused by her defiance. That depends on what Milady can offer. Seeing a glimmer of hope, Ruoli pleaded, let me go, and we can talk. Qing Jun released her, but remained wary. She was unlike any woman had met. Ruoli feigned weakness, assuring him she wouldn't try anything. Recalling the first assassination attempt, Qing Jun hesitated. That was the moment Ruoli was waiting for. She spun around, feigning an attack, but her real target was his mask. She snatched it off. Qing Jun's expression darkened. The scar on his cheek, a source of deep shame and trauma, was revealed. Ruoli, only intending to see his face, was shocked. "Oh my God, your face," she blurted. Despite his usual flamboyant attire, Qing Jun's only insecurity was his scar. Seen enough. He was filled with murderous intent. Ruoli quickly returned the mask. "I'm sorry, I didn't know." He snatched it back, and quickly put it on. "Since Milady has seen it, I can't let you live." Ruoli was indignant. "Just because I saw your scar. That's unreasonable." Her words stung, triggering painful memories. Because of this scar, he had been mocked, ostracized, and driven to become an assassin. That's the reason. Ruoli, having witnessed similar pain in the original body's memories, was speechless. Mistaking her silence for mockery, Qing Jun pinned her against a wall. "You're lying." He gripped her chin tightly. He suddenly felt her burning skin. Ruoli had caught a chill in her thin clothes and had a fever. Struggling to breathe, she insisted, "I'm not mocking you. I understand." Qing Jun, unaware of her fever, couldn't believe a beautiful princess could understand his pain. "If I said I had the same experience, would you feel better?" Intrigued, Qing Jun waited for an explanation. Without a word, Ruoli removed her makeup, revealing a birthmark similar to his scar, proving her empathy. Qing Jun was stunned. He never imagined this princess shared his fate. To save her life, Ruoli began to tell her story. "I was born with this mark. My father never acknowledged me. My mother was ridiculed because of me. Being bullied and mocked was commonplace. My mother died young. I used to wish, if I didn't have this mark, maybe she wouldn't have suffered." Ruoli looked at Qing Jun sincerely. "Now do you believe me?" Xie was panicked. "Are you sure this will work? He's an assassin, trust me. He's been hurt. It might work." Qing Jun was slightly touched, but not enough. He scoffed. "Do you think a story will sway me?" "Of course not." Ruoli had another card to play. She would tell him she could heal his scar. Xie was doubtful. "Don't overpromise. I'm just a makeup kit." Ruoli reassured her, "Don't worry, I have a plan." Ruoli moved closer to Qing Jun, aiming to reach his heart. "In this superficial world, people only see our flaws. But why should we accept their malice and give up hope? Why should we let their inflicted pain destroy our self-worth?" Qing Jun's hardened heart began to waver. Ruoli extended her hand. "If you're willing, I can heal your scar. You can live freely under the sun, without the mask." Ruoli's sincerity made Qing Jun almost relent. "I don't need it," he finally said, but his killing intent had vanished. The moon had risen high. Ruoli, relieved and exhausted, succumbed to her fever. Qing Jun watched her. "I was sent to kill you 3 times, and you want to help me. How foolish." But this foolish woman intrigued him. He removed his mask. "Since these scars are already etched in my heart, maybe it's time to let go." Qing Jun's scar was from childhood bullies, who used walls to maul his face. Since then, he stopped enduring and started fighting back. Ruoli, delirious with fever, kept murmuring. Qing Jun felt a strange protectiveness towards her. He noticed her shivering. He built a large fire, and held her close, using his body and the fire to warm her. His assassin's instincts alerted him to approaching footsteps. It was Wang Yi, searching for Ruoli. The scene before him enraged him. Seeing his wife in another man's arms, his jealousy flared. "Nameless one. What have you done to my wife? Release her." Qing Jun chuckled. "So it's Zhong Wang." He put Ruoli down and slowly backed away. "Answer my question." Wang Yi demanded. Qing Jun smirked. "Your wife is awake." Wang Yi turned to Ruoli, realizing he'd been tricked. Qing Jun seized the opportunity, and used his skill to make the sword in Wang Yi's hand vanish. Wang Yi was taken aback by the Nameless One's skill. Sensing Wang Yi's protectiveness towards Ruoli, Qing Jun taunted, "You seem quite concerned about your wife." He reappeared the sword, now in his own hand. "How does it feel to be held at sword point by your own weapon?" Ruoli woke up and shouted, "Stop." Hearing her concern, Qing Jun lowered the sword and retreated to a corner. Wang Yi was bewildered. Why would the cold-blooded Nameless One obey Ruoli? His suspicion deepened. Ruoli, concerned, asked, "Are you all right?" Wang Yi glared at Qing Jun. "You're concerned about him. What does that mean?" His gaze remained fixed on Qing Jun, his anger simmering. "Since when did my wife and the Nameless One become acquainted?" Ruoli was baffled. "How could I have any connection with him? I avoid him at all costs." We just met on the mountain. You misunderstood. Misunderstood. Then being in his arms is also part of this misunderstanding. Ruoli was shocked. She had been unconscious and knew nothing had happened. Qingjun just watched, amused. There's really nothing between us. Didn't you say you'd trust me? Wang Ye's voice dripped with sarcasm. Are you pleading for this man because you want me to spare him? Ruoli frantically denied it, but couldn't explain. Wang Ye suddenly pulled her close and kissed her passionately in front of Qingjun. Qingjun felt a pang of annoyance. Public display of affection. I want to punch him. Wang Ye's jealousy subsided slightly. He wanted to assert his dominance over Qingjun. I'll let this go, but you better remember your place. Prince and Qingjun engaged in a silent battle. They continued trying to annihilate each other with their gazes. Xiaji suddenly appeared. Looks like your prince is quite jealous. Ruoli curiously asked him what had happened. You were asleep. Ran kissed you. The prince called you silly, but then he hugged you. Ruoli, slightly unnerved, asked, and then, Xiaji said, I couldn't bear to watch the rest, so I hid. I didn't see it. Ruoli imagined the scene and was speechless, thinking, the prince's domineering kiss just now. She understood. So, he kissed me because he was jealous. Xiaji, Dag gossiped, you two made up. Ruoli was speechless, is making up the point. Xiaji didn't understand, what else is there? The tension between them. It's like rivals glaring at each other. It's intense. Finding it difficult to mediate, Ruoli made an escape to the restroom. With Ruoli gone, the prince lost interest in the standoff, only concerned about where she went. Ruoli ignored them and left the ruined temple. Xiaji told Ruoli, if you leave like this, hell no. They say love makes women lose their minds. It's true. Ruoli felt like a mere possession to the prince. Dag tried to mediate, it was a misunderstanding. But Ruoli dwelled on the prince's promise to trust her, yet he acted like that. Men's words are deceitful. The prince had caught up. He grabbed Ruoli. Are you trying to embarrass me? Ruoli retorted, let go. I don't want to see you right now. The prince refused, I'm your husband. You can only look at me. Ruoli exclaimed, husband. How laughable. From your attitude, in just your property. Once someone else touches me, you mark me to declare ownership. The prince argued, what's wrong with kissing my wife? Or is it that you didn't want to do it in front of that stranger? Ruoli fumed, it's not about who was watching. It's about, the prince kissed her again, wanting her to know how much he cared, but Ruoli was stubborn. The prince's passionate kiss didn't sway her. She pushed him away forcefully. The prince was exasperated, you're so dense. Can't you see how much I like you? Ruoli turned away, upset that he used his affection as an excuse, disregarding her feelings. She returned to the temple. The prince stood behind her, speechless. Back at the manor, Ruoli remained indignant, determined to stay angry. Xiaji teased her, they say no argument can't be solved with a kiss. If one's not enough, then two. Seems your prince understands this well. Ruoli scoffed, don't be ridiculous. I only came back because I was worried about Xiao Xiao. Xiaji chuckled, clearly you miss him. The prince using Xiao Xiao as a shield. I won't say anything. Qiao came to inform Ruoli that dinner was ready. Ruoli went for dinner. Usually, it was a family of 3, but tonight, the prince's seat was empty. He was sulking. Xiao Xiao asked, why isn't daddy eating with us? Seeing her mother's expression, Xiao Xiao understood they had argued. Adults say couples make up quickly. They'll be fine by tonight. Ruoli gave Xiao Xiao a chicken leg. It seems you haven't been clinging to me as much since attending the academy. Xiao Xiao, delighted with the chicken leg, said, Mother, don't misunderstand. Xiao Xiao also wants you and Daddy. Ruoli interrupted, knowing what Xiao Xiao would say, but still holding her ground against the prince. I'll spend more time with you these days, okay? Xiao Xiao wanted to be with her, but she remembered her role as the ultimate matchmaker. She hesitated. Ruoli slammed her bowl down, preventing Xiao Xiao from mentioning her father. Xiao Xiao seemed unwilling. Seeing her mother's disapproval, Xiao Xiao knew she was using her against her father. To avoid upsetting her, she quickly replied, okay, I'm willing. Hearing this, Ruoli smiled with satisfaction. That's right. She gave Xiao Xiao more food. Here, eat more meat. Xiao Xiao obediently accepted the meat, thinking, I must find a way to get Daddy and Mother back together. Xiao Xiao then pretended to be listless, successfully catching Ruoli's attention. What's wrong? Xiao Xiao looked up. Mother, I heard Kiao say Dad is still in the study working. Is he tired? Is he hungry? Ruoli gave her a fake smile. Are you so worried about Daddy that you want to go to the study to accompany him? Realizing her plan failed, Xiao resigned herself to sleeping. Ruoli knew Xiao was trying to make her think about the prince, but she wouldn't give in so easily. Late at night, someone knocked on Xiao's door. Unable to bear the longing, the prince came to visit. Looking at the sleeping Ruoli, he wondered, why won't you soften towards me? Ruoli was also hurting. This was her first love. Even in her sleep, she mumbled his name, you big oaf. The prince, not understanding big oaf, thought she wanted to eat pork, making a mental note to prepare some for her. Xiao suddenly woke up and called, Daddy. The startled prince quickly moved away from Ruoli's side. Xiao, rubbing her eyes, saw him hiding. Daddy, why are you here? The prince shushed her as Ruoli stirred. Not wanting to expose himself, he panicked. He hadn't figured out how to reconcile yet. Ruoli woke up, noticing Xiao was gone and the room was dimly lit. Seeing a figure, she assumed it was an assassin and grabbed a vase. How dare you trespass into the prince's manor? She threw the vase towards the figure. The prince dodged it. The vase shattered near the prince and Xiao. Both remained silent. Ruoli, realizing she missed, grabbed a broom. Xiao, don't be afraid. Mommy will save you. Picking on a child is cowardly. The prince sighed. To avoid further embarrassment, he decided to yield. Hearing the voice, Ruoli swung the broom. Someone grabbed her hand and pulled her into an embrace. Recognizing the prince's scent, she realized who it was. What are you doing in my room in the middle of the night? Ruoli continued to feign anger. The prince leaned closer, their faces almost touching. Ruoli struggled, let go of me. The prince kissed her. Didn't you say someone was picking on you? Why are you telling me to let go? Ruoli pulled away, that's not what I meant. The prince caressed her face. Then what do you mean? Seeing his expression, Ruoli pushed him away, anticipating another kiss. The prince accidentally touched a shard of glass. Ouch! Ruoli, feeling his damp clothes, worried he was cut. What's wrong? Are you hurt? Let me see. The prince grabbed her hand. Yes, you were quite rough. But not there. Don't touch it. They stared at each other, blushing. Xiao returned with a candle, illuminating the room. Neither noticed, their eyes only for each other. Seeing them, Xiao blushed. She turned around. I didn't see anything. Daddy, Mommy, please continue. Hearing her voice, they realized the room was lit. Ruoli quickly pulled away. The prince straightened his clothes, looking for an excuse to leave. Xiao interrupted. Mommy, Xiao suddenly remembered I have unfinished homework. Daddy, since you're here, help Xiao and stay with Mommy tonight. Before leaving, Xiao winked at the prince. Daddy, I can only help you this much. The prince appreciated her efforts, but it still depended on Ruoli. Ruoli, realizing their scheme, suddenly called out to Xiao, what homework needs to be done in the middle of the night? Xiao was speechless. Ruoli understood they were colluding against her, a fake smile plastered on her face. Since you two are so persistent. She grabbed them both and dragged them towards the door. Get out. She slammed the door shut. The prince and Xiao left dejectedly. Xiao asked, Daddy, what did you do? Why is Mommy so stubborn? The prince sat with Xiao and explained what happened. Xiao finally understood. The prince sighed helplessly. Forget it. You're just a child. You wouldn't understand adult matters. Xiao immediately refuted. Xiao understands. Xiao knows Daddy acted that way because he cares about Mommy, but it's normal for Mommy to be angry for that reason. So, Daddy, you should. Don't underestimate this child. Guided by the 7-aperture dragon star, Xiao began instructing the prince on how to appease his wife. The prince listened attentively to the little one's guidance. The next day, Ruoli awoke naturally, stretching luxuriously. She was in a wonderful mood, when suddenly, someone embraced her from behind. Everyone would assume it was the prince, but this wasn't the prince they knew. Mimicking the prince perfectly, he whispered, Ruoli, are you still angry? Ruoli turned around abruptly. When did you get in here? Get out. I'm still mad at the prince. The prince held Ruoli tightly, apologizing sincerely. I was wrong. Please forgive me. The prince's sudden softness melted Ruoli's heart. It's all just silly couple stuff. Magnanimous. I'll forgive him. Before Ruoli could respond, the prince began undressing her. What are you doing? I haven't agreed to forgive you yet. The prince ignored her protests, gently pushing her down. You smell so good. Ruoli was taken aback by this sudden morning passion. Stop it. The servants will hear. Meanwhile, Xiao Xiao, holding the peace offering the prince had prepared for Ruoli, was skeptical. Daddy, are you sure this will work? Confidently, the prince reassured Xiao Xiao, she'll love it. But Xiao Xiao was still dubious. Daddy, I just said you needed the right approach, but, the prince interrupted, she'll understand my intentions. The gift, in fact, had a hidden meaning. Satisfied with this explanation, Xiao Xiao told the prince to hide. But why? The prince asked. It's a surprise, of course. In reality, Xiao Xiao feared Ruoli would slam the door in the prince's face, rejecting the gift and becoming even angrier. So, he insisted the prince shouldn't deliver it. Himself, Qiao Jiu, the maid, was shocked. I just saw the prince in the room. How is there another one? The prince turned to Qiao Jiu. What's wrong? Is there something different about me? Just now, didn't you just go in? And you told me not to disturb you. Xiao Xiao's heart sank. Something's wrong. Daddy, go check. Mommy's in danger. Without hesitation, the prince rushed to Ruoli's door and kicked it open. Ruoli, he shouted as he entered. He saw Ruoli, fully dressed, confronting a man who looked exactly like him. The prince was furious. You bastard. Ruoli, already realizing the imposter, held a knife to his throat. Who are you? Why are you pretending to be the prince? The fake prince remained unfazed. Ruoli, what's wrong? Is this some kind of roleplay? Are you playing a game with me? Enraged, Ruoli pressed the knife closer. Who's playing games with you? I'll kill you. As the imposter tried to caress her, the real prince drew his sword. Don't dirty your hands, my love. This is my job. Ruoli turned and saw the real prince. You dare impersonate me? He rushed to her side. Are you all right? He asked, concerned. He quickly adjusted her clothes. Seeing his worried expression, Ruoli assured him she was fine. Xiao Xiao chuckled. What a loving scene. I'm quite envious. Ruoli suddenly realized. Qingjun. It was you. Qingjun removed his disguise. How did you know it was me? Ruoli blushed, finding it difficult to explain. Seizing the opportunity, Qingjun moved to the window, picking up his discarded robe. It seems I was a bit too hasty. He tossed the robe to the prince and vanished in a blink of an eye. Qingjun had escaped. Furious that Qingjun had dared to harass Ruoli again and again, the prince gave chase. Be careful. Ruoli called after him. Though believed to be ill, the prince's martial arts skills surpassed even the professional assassin Qingjun. Protect Xiao Xiao. I'll be back. The prince caught up to Qingjun, and a fight erupted within their own home. While not as skilled as the prince, Qingjun was agile enough to escape. However, he stayed, proposing a deal. I have some information. The prince scoffed. You, a shady assassin, want to make a deal with me? Qingjun sneered. Does your highness truly believe your plans are foolproof? The prince grew wary. Had his plot against the DAG clan been discovered? What do you mean? Don't think I don't know. You and Wan Ruoli haven't consummated your marriage. That's a serious offense for a husband. What do you think will happen to you and the princess if the emperor finds out? Qingjun was still waiting for the right moment on a nearby rooftop. Now that you know the secret, to prevent it from spreading and to protect Ruoli, the prince, filled with killing intent, attacked Qingjun without a word. Qingjun, sensing the prince's murderous aura, drew his sword to defend himself, and got to the heart of the matter. You can't protect him anyway. It's better to let him come with me than be dragged down by your shady affairs. This provoked the prince. My princess is my responsibility. I don't need your interference. The prince saw Huashu charging up his left hand as well, preparing for a two-pronged attack. Qingjun was hit by another blow from the prince, this time to the chest. He stumbled back, coughing up blood. Actually, I mean no harm to the prince. I just want to take Ruoli away so she won't be caught up in his troubles. The prince, believing that killing Qingjun would protect Ruoli and keep the secret safe, was about to strike when he heard Qingjun's chilling words. Do you think the emperor and empress will spare Wan Ruoli even if you kill me? Clearly, Qingjun knew some secrets about the emperor and empress. The prince, holding back his anger, let him continue. 3 months ago, a solar eclipse occurred. The emperor ordered the city and Jian to divine its meaning. The results are out. The eclipse signifies a harbinger of misfortune in Dongsheng. Only by sacrificing this woman can the kingdom be saved and peace restored. The prince had a bad feeling. What are you trying to say, Qingjun? Qingjun took out the city and Jian's divination results, showing the prince the birth date of the supposed harbinger. She is the one who brings calamity. She's the one to be sacrificed. The prince stared at the birth date, refusing to believe that Ruoli was the source of the kingdom's misfortune. I'm here because I received reliable information. The emperor has summoned you and Ruoli to the palace. They'll be here within the hour. Moreover, the empress and consort Wan are persuading the empress dowager not to interfere. Even if Ruoli is favored, the empress dowager won't protect her when the kingdom's fate is at stake. The prince questioned Qingjun, you've tried to kill Ruoli on the empress orders. Why should I trust you? Qingjun touched the scar on his face. Ruoli is the first person to treat me with kindness, and not despise me. I care for her and want to protect her, so I won't let the emperor take her. I won't watch her burn to death. Qingjun's sincerity made the prince lower his guard. This matter involved the entire kingdom's fate. If true, it could cause upheaval. However, he was still suspicious. You've only met Ruoli a few times and you're betraying the empress for her. What's your real motive? Seeing the prince's hesitation, Qingjun knew his doubts. There's no time to explain. The palace guards will be here soon. Do you really want to see Ruoli fall into the emperor's hands? Or do you believe the city and Jian's prophecy? The prince denied it immediately. Of course not. Ruoli is my princess, my wife. She's no harbinger of misfortune. If the emperor and the city and Jian insist on condemning Ruoli, I will defy fate itself to protect her. Just then, a guard reported that Eunuch Li had arrived with a decree, summoning the prince and princess to the palace immediately. This confirmed Qingjun's words. The situation was urgent. The prince had to make a decision. Qingjun urged him, they are here. What are you waiting for? Although reluctant to entrust Ruoli to another man, the prince saw no other way to protect her. He finally agreed to let Qingjun take her. Qingjun turned to leave, but the prince called him back. Qingjun paused. Changed your mind already? The prince hadn't. The entire manor is surrounded. Those guards out there won't let anyone through. I know you're skilled, but I can't risk Ruoli's safety. This reminded Qingjun of the same concern. He didn't want anything to happen to Ruoli either, so he asked the prince for a solution. The prince revealed the location of a secret passage. It'll create a diversion. No matter what happens, you must take her and leave. The prince's trust surprised Qingjun, and shifted his perspective. Meanwhile, Ruoli was pacing anxiously in her room. She knew Qingjun wasn't inherently bad, but she was still unsure of his motives. Would she be safe with him? Hearing the door open, she turned excitedly, calling out the prince's name, only to find it was Qingjun. Disappointment washed over her. Why are you here? Where is Zun Yao? With no time to waste, Qingjun grabbed Ruoli's hand. We have to go. Ruoli resisted. What are you doing? Let me go. The emperor's men are coming. Qingjun had no time to explain. If you want to live, come with me. Ruoli's heart sank. She thought Qingjun's urgency meant he had harmed the prince. She glared at him. Qingjun looked at her with sincerity. Trust me. In fact, he had already drawn his hidden dagger, ready to avenge the prince. But his subtle move had long been noticed by Qingjun, ready to strike. Qingjun, fearing for the hostage's safety, didn't resist as Ruoli held a knife to his throat. What have you done to Zun Yao? Don't worry, your prince is fine, it's just. Already worried about the prince's safety and hearing the it's just, Ruoli desperately wanted to know what just meant. Seeing Ruoli's agitated state, Qingjun knew he wouldn't leave without an explanation. But time was of the essence. The Qing soldiers had to act, knocking away Ruoli's dagger. Then, they swiftly struck him with a hand chop, knocking him unconscious. Hurry and take him away. Otherwise, the prince's sacrifices and deception will be in vain. In the main hall, Eunuch Li, sent by the emperor, was accusing the prince of harboring the Star of Calamity, a crime of treason. The prince remained calm, sipping his tea, waiting for Eunuch Li to finish his tirade and for the appointed time with Qingjun to arrive. Then, he finally spoke. Ruoli and I were wed by the emperor's decree. If Ruoli is the Star of Calamity, then the emperor is guilty of poor judgment and unworthy of his throne. With that, he smashed his teacup, a signal for the planned chaos to begin. Then, unlike his usual gentle demeanor, he stood up, his powerful aura causing Eunuch Li to stumble backward. Guards! Seize the prince. The prince smirked. There's no need for such theatrics, Eunuch Li. Since the emperor wants to see me so badly, I'll go. After all, there are some things I need to settle with him. In the palace, the emperor raged. Useless fools. He had used his power and searched for 2 days, but couldn't find Ruoli. His officials were equally helpless. The scheming empress rushed to appease him. Calm yourself, your majesty. Don't ruin your health. Although we haven't captured Wan Ruoli, we still have Zhong Wang. Speaking of the prince, the emperor's anger flared. The prince refused to reveal Ruoli's whereabouts, and he couldn't find her. He was frustrated. The empress offered a sinister suggestion. Zhong Wang is feigning weakness, harboring rebellious intentions, and protecting the Star of Calamity. Each one is a serious crime. Your Majesty should punish him severely and force Wan Ruoli to reveal herself. The emperor pondered, pleased with the empress' idea, and instructed her to carry it out. Soon, rumors spread throughout the capital. Zhong Wang, accused of treason, had been stripped of his title and imprisoned. It was also said that Ruoli, the Star of Calamity, was disrupting the nation's harmony, and the emperor was offering a reward for her capture. An old man in the crowd lamented, I've heard of the Star of Calamity. The rumors grow more exaggerated. It's not just disrupting the nation's harmony, but bringing other disasters too, like the Great Drought 100 years ago in the Eastern Sheng Kingdom. Crops failed, and countless people starved. I still remember the harrowing scenes, don't you know? The Star of Calamity doesn't belong in the mortal realm. Only by sacrificing her to the heavens can peace be restored. The crowd grew restless, demanding the capture of Wan Ruoli, the Star of Calamity. Qing Jun's men, out gathering information, were speechless at these ignorant rumors. They decided to return to the inn and protect Ruoli, but upon entering, Ruoli was nowhere to be found. The window was open, a rope hanging down. At first glance, it seemed like she had escaped. Qing Jun's men rushed to the window, pulling the rope up. They were suspicious. Had she really escaped? Ruoli had created a false escape route. While Qing Jun's men were distracted, she sped towards the door. Unfortunately, she was facing a top-tier assassin, skilled in both martial arts and trickery. With a swift move, Qing Jun blocked Ruoli's path. How many times do you plan to run? Do you think I can't see through these little tricks? Ruoli retorted, my life is my own. Why should you control me? Besides, this is kidnapping, it's illegal. Her words gave Qing Jun an idea. He chuckled, you've reminded me of something. Ruoli had a bad feeling. What do you mean? Qing Jun pulled out a rope and tied Ruoli up tightly. Ruoli instantly regretted her words. Why did I say that? Qing Jun, finally finding the right approach, said cheerfully, since it's kidnapping, tying someone up is essential, right? Ruoli was speechless. Your logic is astounding. Qing Jun decided to buy some of Ruoli's favorite pastries. Don't be angry, wait for me. Ruoli could only think, I'll show you. As soon as Qing Jun left and the door closed, Ruoli summoned her high-tech device, Xie, to cut the ropes. Xie, having been dormant for a while, was shocked. How did you get yourself into this mess? Ruoli, eager to leave, asked Xie to cut the ropes first, promising to explain later. Xie quickly took out her seemingly flimsy, but surprisingly effective knife. It didn't take long for the ropes to be cut. Ruoli was free again. With Xie's help, this was the perfect time to escape. Xie cautiously offered to scout ahead. But, she quickly returned, panicked. Ruoli. The Imperial Court has issued a warrant for your arrest. Several officers are coming to capture you. Ruoli, unaware of the situation at the prince's mansion and the Star of Calamity label, was confused. Xie urged, hurry. They are coming. Just then, Qing Jun returned, pulling Ruoli back into the room and telling her to be quiet. They peeked through the door, observing the commotion outside. From the officers' conversation, Ruoli confirmed they were looking for her. Qing Jun looked at Ruoli seriously. Now do you believe him trying to save you? He explained everything that had happened, including the rumors. Ruoli was overwhelmed with worry and guilt. Qing Jun quickly comforted her, fearing she would blame herself. But Ruoli was stronger than he thought. I have to be strong. I need to rescue Xiao Xiao. Will you still try to stop me? Her resolve strengthened his own. I won't stop you. If you've made up your mind, let me go with you. This had nothing to do with Qing Jun. He was choosing to confront the emperor and empress. Ruoli didn't want to involve him, but Qing Jun had already chosen her side. To prevent Ruoli from feeling indebted, he slapped himself. Seeing his determination, Ruoli agreed. I'll protect you. They quietly returned to the prince's mansion, which was now in ruins. Ruoli cursed, they are nothing but bandits. She discovered a message carved into a pillar, a signal she had taught Xiao Xiao. Qing Jun, seeing the large SOS, asked, what does this mean? It's a Morse code message I taught Xiao Xiao. He must be in danger. Qing Jun, having never heard of it, curiously asked, Morse. Which country is that from? Ruoli, stumped, quickly changed the subject and continued searching for clues. Soon, following Xiao Xiao's signals, they arrived at another courtyard. For safety, Qing Jun told Ruoli to wait while he investigated. With his skills, Qing Jun easily scaled the 2-meter wall. He landed gracefully, but as he moved forward, he triggered a hidden trap. Stones rained down on him. But for Qing Jun, it was nothing. Who's there? Show yourself. He grabbed Xiao Xiao, who was hiding in the bushes. Xiao Xiao remained calm. Where's my mother? What have you done with her? Qiao Jiyu, hearing the commotion, rushed out with a stick. Release Xiao Xiao. Their shouting annoyed Qing Jun. Ruoli, hearing the familiar voices, rushed over. Xiao Xiao. Qiao Jiyu. Is that you? Qing Jun immediately let go. Xiao Xiao, hearing his mother's voice, turned and cried, Mother. Ruoli sat down with Xiao Xiao, comforting him. Xiao Xiao couldn't understand why his mother was with this bad guy. Qing Jun was irritated. Hey, brat. Who are you calling a bad guy? Ruoli tried to calm everyone down. Stop fighting. Father arranged for us to come here, but he was taken away. Ruoli reassured Xiao Xiao. Your father is resourceful. He'll be fine. She thought of the prince who, despite the danger, had arranged for her and Xiao Xiao's safety and bought them time. She felt guilty for her earlier harsh words. Xiao Xiao then presented a gift the prince had intended for Ruoli before the incident. Mother, please don't blame yourself. Father never blamed you. Father said you like candied hawthorns, so he prepared this gift as an apology. Ruoli looked at the jade carving of a candied hawthorn, realizing it was more than just a simple gift. The prince's gift held a hidden message, one that Ruoli understood. As night fell, Qing Jun, worried about Ruoli catching a cold, draped a coat over her. He sat beside her, advising her not to blame herself. The prince wanted her and Xiao Xiao to live well, but with the prince imprisoned in the mansion in ruins, Ruoli couldn't just stand by. Qing Jun, fearing her recklessness, reminded her, you're a fugitive. Do you want to waste the prince's efforts and go against the entire court, the entire country? But Ruoli was determined. Nothing could sway her from rescuing the prince. Since I'm a fugitive either way, I might as well cause more trouble. I'm going to jailbreak him. That night, 2 uninvited guests arrived outside the imperial prison. Ruoli and Qing Jun. To break in, they needed to understand the layout. The prison was heavily guarded. Entry wouldn't be easy. But Ruoli specialized in infiltrating high-security areas. She immediately devised a plan. They acquired 2 sets of guard uniforms, disguised themselves, and pretended to be captured, making noises to attract the guards' attention. As expected, they caught the attention of the guards, who mistook them for their own. They approached to untie Ruoli. As soon as she was free, Ruoli shouted, someone's trying to break in. They disguised themselves as guards. The real guards immediately rushed inside, allowing Ruoli and Qing Jun to quickly overpower them. Just like that, they entered the prison. Qing Jun, familiar with the palace layout, led Ruoli to the high-security area. But Ruoli didn't see any special security measures. Qing Jun explained, it may not look heavily guarded, but the prisoners here are watched by the emperor's elite guards. He noticed Ruoli lifting a tile from the roof. What are you doing? If you're serious, let's go down and find the prince. Juna stopped Ruoli. No, this is too reckless. We need to confirm that the prince is imprisoned here before acting. Ruoli posed a crucial question. If we don't go down, how can we confirm he's there? Suddenly, Qing Jun grabbed her sleeve. 2 imperial guards came down just now, complaining. They said someone was cut so badly he's almost unrecognizable, but still won't reveal the courtesan's whereabouts. It seems the prince has gone mad for a courtesan. Hearing this, Ruoli imagined the prince's current state. I'm going to kill them all. Furious, Ruoli kicked a tile. She couldn't wait any longer and jumped down to find the prince, giving the guards no time to react or dissuade her. Seeing this, Qingjun also jumped down to help her search. As soon as he landed, an imperial guard spotted them and attacked. Qingjun swiftly caught Ruoli in his arms, shielding her from the blow. He hadn't expected to alert the emperor's men so quickly. Telling Ruoli to find the prince, he stayed to hold them off, unaware that they were walking into a trap set by the emperor and empress. Seeing only one guard, Ruoli quickly ran inside to find the prince. She soon stopped in shock. A man, beaten bloody and raw, was tied to a wooden frame. Ruoli softly called out, "Xuanyao." The man weakly looked up. "Ruoli. Why are you here?" Tears welled up in Ruoli's eyes. "I'm here to save you. Look at you. Don't move. I'll get you down." She rushed towards him, but a net suddenly dropped, trapping Ruoli. Qingjun, after dealing with the guard, came looking for Ruoli and saw her suspended in midair. Ruoli called down, "I'm fine. It's just a net." Seeing the danger, Xiaji also jumped down to help. She took out her dull knife and started sawing at the ropes. The next moment, only a small nick appeared in the ropes, and her knife broke in two. Xiaji stared blankly. "Ruoli, I'm so useless." Qingjun threw his dagger, slicing the ropes. Ruoli landed with a backflip. "Thanks, Qingjun. This is a dangerous place. Hurry, Ruoli, save him and let's go." Qingjun urged. Ruoli picked up the dagger. "Xuanyao, hold on, we'll be out soon," she murmured while cutting the ropes. With Qingjun's sharp dagger, the man was quickly freed. Ruoli supported him. "Xuanyao, are you okay? Can you walk?" He smiled sinisterly. Suddenly, his expression turned vicious. "Thank you for your concern, princess." He choked Ruoli. She realized then that this wasn't the prince. It was one of the emperor's spies, disguised as the prince to lure Ruoli into a trap. As he choked her, he injected a poison that would spread through her body if she struggled. Ruoli tried to fight back, but the original body was too weak. Qingjun was outside the cell, fighting another guard. Sensing something amiss, he turned and saw Ruoli being held. He rushed towards her, knocking the guard away. "What have you done to her?" Ruoli weakly told Qingjun to save the prince first. Just then, they heard the empress voice. "You think you can save him?" The emperor and empress arrived to spring their trap. The emperor, lecherous gaze fixed on Ruoli, was delighted. The empress was equally pleased, finally avenged for the previous humiliation. "Wan Ruoli, you've finally fallen into our hands." She then pointed angrily at Qingjun. "You traitor." She ordered the spy to kill Qingjun. Unable to kill him alone, he fought dirty. Qingjun found himself facing two skilled opponents. How long could he last? Ruoli knew Qingjun was outmatched. She had to do something. As she predicted, Qingjun was soon overpowered, his arm pinned. The other attacker swung his sword. At this critical moment, Ruoli ignored the poison and ran over, loosening the grip on Qingjun and blocking the sword with her hand. The poison surged through her body. The emperor, not wanting his prize harmed, yelled, "Stop! Who told you to touch her?" Ruoli coughed up blood. The sight devastated Qingjun. Someone was willing to die for him. Certain of his feelings for her, he held her close. With her last strength, Ruoli urged Qingjun to escape and find the prince. Her mind flashed with memories of the prince, her most cherished moments. She had something she'd always wanted to tell him, afraid she wouldn't get the chance. She asked Qingjun to relay the message. "I like him too." Qingjun, no longer the cold-blooded assassin, was determined to save her. "Save those words for him. I'll get you out." Ruoli used her remaining strength to push him away. "I'm poisoned. I'll only slow you down." She grabbed a nearby knife. Qingjun, shocked by her actions, was momentarily stunned. Ruoli held the knife to her throat, threatening to kill herself if the emperor didn't let Qingjun go. Shocked again, the emperor hesitated. Ruoli threatened Qingjun as well. "If you don't leave, I'll really do it." The empress laughed. "Wan Ruoli, do you think that will work?" She was immediately proven wrong, as the emperor ordered Qingjun's release. The empress protested, but the emperor, also deeply affected by Ruoli's selfless actions, silenced her. He'd never met a woman like her. Ruoli, weakening, urged Qingjun to leave. Go? Quickly. Knowing he couldn't save her now, Qingjun reluctantly obeyed, planning to return later. As he disappeared, Ruoli, free of worries, collapsed. The emperor ordered the antidote administered, and had Ruoli imprisoned in the palace dungeons. When she awoke, he approached smugly. Why go through all this? If you had agreed to be my concubine, none of this would have happened. Ruoli glared defiantly at him. This enraged the emperor. He grabbed her face. I am the emperor. How dare you ignore me? Ruoli remained defiant. So what? You disgust me. Instead of deterring him, her defiance only fueled his desire to conquer her. If you submit to me, I might, out of brotherly affection, spare Xuanyao, and that nameless one might also live. Ruoli realized the emperor hadn't released Qingjun. The emperor stood up, pleased. I'll give you some time to think about it. We'll see who wins in the end. Ruoli suddenly said, fine, I agree. Delighted, the emperor moved closer, believing he had won, but Ruoli headbutted him. You think I'd trust you? Humiliated and injured, the emperor was furious. You'll regret this. He abandoned all pretense of kindness, and ordered her tortured. The next day, Xiaji saw Ruoli, bruised and blooded. I'll find a way to save you. The royal altar was prepared. Officials and citizens gathered for a ritual. The priest, dressed elaborately, declared Ruoli a threat to the kingdom based on heavenly signs. Ruoli, dressed as a demoness, was brought to the altar, and accused of causing the kingdom's misfortunes. The priest declared that only by sacrificing Ruoli could the kingdom be saved. He was actually a spy from another kingdom. Minister Chen, known for his integrity, was troubled. Is she truly a demoness? Another official quickly reassured him. Of course she is. Don't be deceived. The spy, after inciting the crowd, approached the pyre with a torch. Once you're dead, the kingdom will be truly doomed. Rest in peace, princess. Ruoli remained calm. We're both spies, she revealed, addressing the priest. I'm a modern spy, you're an ancient one. Why be so ruthless? Focused on his mission, the spy ignored her, thinking she was rambling. We'll see who's doomed, Ruoli said confidently. The next moment, a dagger pierced the spy's hand, making him drop the torch. The torch landed away from the pyre. Officials shouted, fire! Who dared interfere? The spy roared. The prince, astride a white horse, charged through the crowd towards Ruoli. Ruoli, shocked to see him, was speechless. The ritual was in chaos. The emperor ordered his men to capture the prince. He then pulled out his accessories and rushed towards Silly. The sky silk sword also spread out like a tent, unable to block him. Prince Xiaosa, with a burst of energy, cut the iron chains binding Ruoli. Ruoli fell directly onto the prince's white horse, and was held tightly by him. Are you all right? Ruoli was very curious. Who are you? Why do you always come to save me when I'm in danger? Now, the prince no longer intended to hide. He directly removed his mask. I want to protect you openly and honorably. Only then did Ruoli realize that the white horse prince was the prince. He had been silently protecting her from the beginning. My love, I will never fail you. As the two, The emperor was enraged when he saw this scene. On the altar of the ancestral temple, Luo Luo Bao Bao, Xiuci Li, archers, prepare. Kill him. Understood. The archers who received the order drew their bows and arrows. Ruoli looked at the row of archers, her heart sinking. It's over. Will we be shot into hedgehogs? Suddenly, the prince immediately turned his horse to face everyone, and took out the imperial gold medallion of immunity granted by the late emperor. I dare you. The archers immediately stopped, filled with confusion and shock. It's actually Prince Zhong. How can he have the late emperor's imperial gold medallion of immunity? The whole country knew that Prince Zhong had fallen from grace, and was not expected to live much longer. Now, he looked like a different person. Everyone was waiting for an answer. Ruo Li was also worried that the prince's exposure, at this moment, would bring disaster. The prince looked at her resolutely. It doesn't matter. I am your husband. I should protect you with my true identity. Just as everyone was puzzled and silent, a flying knife suddenly pierced the prince's chest. Xianzu witnessed Ruo Li's face full of shock and worry. This was the emperor's personal action. He laughed heartily, believing he had finally killed him. He was extremely jealous of the late emperor's favoritism, and knew that when the prince presented the imperial gold medallion of immunity, no one would obey his orders to harm him. He could only take action himself to eliminate the threat. Prince Zhong immediately fell off his horse. Minister Chen stepped forward to stop him. Your Majesty, are you crazy? That's your own brother. He has the late Emperor's Imperial Gold Medallion of Immunity. You can't kill him. He disregarded the late Emperor's Imperial Gold Medallion of Immunity. Such a rebellious minister is not worthy of our allegiance. These words resonated with many officials, but the Emperor remained unyielding. So what if it's the Imperial Gold Medallion of Immunity? Can it resist the Imperial Sword? I am the current Emperor. The more the Emperor said this, the more the officials felt that this Emperor was unfilial, tyrannical, and unworthy of their support. The Empress at the side was anxious and had to remind him. If he continued to speak recklessly, the officials might rebel, and his throne would be in jeopardy. Just as the Empress wanted to step forward and remind him, someone pulled her back. The Empress was startled. Consort Wan, what is the meaning of this? But the person was not Consort Wan, but Qing Jun. It's just a dying struggle of a doomed man. The Empress was shocked. Qing Jun is not dead. What's going on? She knew now was not the time for confrontation, and should look for an opportunity. However, the Emperor was fearless. He looked at the four directions. Now, natural disasters and man-made calamities have brought suffering to our Dongsheng. Prince Zhong, relying on the Imperial Gold Medallion of Immunity granted by the late Emperor, has repeatedly caused trouble and obstructed us. Tell me, what's wrong with this current Emperor killing a rebellious traitor who defies authority? Everyone knew that when the late Emperor was in power, he favored Prince Zhong alone. As the Crown Prince, he had been treated with indifference. Since the late Emperor gave Prince Zhong the Imperial Gold Medallion of Immunity, it meant he acknowledged his wrongdoing. Let them, father and son, reunite in the afterlife. What's wrong with that? He laughed. Now that he was on the throne, for the Emperor, right and wrong were his to define. He declared his imperial power, fiercely threw his bow and arrow on the ground, and laughed heartily. Ruoli sorrowfully held the heavily injured prince. No matter how she called him, he did not respond. She thought the prince was dead and wept bitterly, grieving uncontrollably. You bastards! At this moment, a miracle occurred. A golden light descended from the sky, enveloping Ruoli and the prince. This righteous image attracted everyone to look up at the sky. They looked in shock at the nine-tailed fox that appeared in the sky. The nine-tailed fox was an auspicious omen, its appearance representing peace and prosperity. The nine-tailed fox's appearance was clearly directed at Ruoli. Everyone was in awe, believing she was a goddess. The auspicious nine-tailed fox that appeared in the sky illuminated the entire Dongsheng kingdom with golden light. People worshipped and rejoiced. Even Qing Jun, who didn't believe in ghosts and gods, was somewhat moved. What's going on? Without much thought, he first focused on the task at hand and pulled out the bad old man, Silly. In front of everyone, he exposed Silly's true identity as a spy from another country. Everyone, look clearly. This person is not Silly at all, but a spy sent by the Shihi Kingdom. Because the people of Shihi Kingdom are branded with their national symbol at birth, he tricked the Empress into trusting him, wanting to use her to kill Princess Zhong and thus harm Dongsheng. At this point, the Empress cried out, "It's over. It's completely over." The officials were in an uproar, with various opinions. It seems that Shihi Kingdom knew Princess Zhong was a goddess long ago, so they came up with this scheme. How insidious and shameless! The officials excitedly expressed their views. I heard that the nine-tailed fox appeared, indicating that the prince should be emperor. With Princess Zhong as empress, Dongsheng will surely prosper. The voices of support reached a crescendo. The emperor was unwilling. The prince's wife has the destiny of an empress. What does that mean? All of you, shut up. Don't forget that I am the emperor. I am the son of heaven. The emperor couldn't control the situation. For his throne, since Wan Ruoli had the destiny of an empress, he shamelessly stepped forward, grabbed Ruoli, and publicly declared, I hereby appoint Ruoli as empress. From today onwards, you are my woman. Ruoli looked coldly at this tyrannical, immoral emperor who murdered the prince. You're worthy. The emperor was still gloating when he saw Ruoli raise her fist. A small wooden ball transformed into a fist and struck the emperor. Burn marks immediately appeared on the emperor's face. The emperor screamed in pain. He was most worried about his face being disfigured. Dongsheng has always valued appearance. And as the emperor, his appearance was even more important. Ruoli was surprised. When did my fist become so powerful? I wonder what's going on. Shiji quickly told Ruoli, this move, explosive impact, will cause a continuous burning effect on the skin after it's released. Burning beauty is just a part of Shiji's abilities. You've awakened a new skill. It's specifically designed to deal with those bad guys who only have good looks. Ruoli understood. My fist can ruin other people's faces. This new skill is so useful. Facing the shameless person, she wouldn't leave him any face. She clenched her fist tightly, intending to continue teaching this crazy emperor a lesson. Seeing that Ruoli was going to hit him again, the emperor panicked and yelled, guards. Protect me. The officials and guards watched coldly. Such a tyrannical and immoral emperor dared to offend the goddess. It was simply self-inflicted. But the two imperial guards, who were previously in the prison, instantly appeared in front of the emperor, blocking Ruoli's approach. Ruoli looked at these two loyal dogs. It seems we have to settle this together. Without a word, the two whips lashed towards Ruoli. At this moment, the prince pulled out the sword that had pierced him and threw it at the imperial guard attacking Ruoli, instantly taking his life. The prince stood beside Ruoli, facing the emperor. Even now, imperial brother, do you not repent? The emperor's face was full of disbelief. How is this possible? I personally stabbed you. Why are you still alive? Gwenjian was also shocked to see that the prince was unharmed and full of energy, just like the emperor. Ruoli was also shocked and quickly scolded, are you trying to scare me to death? You even lied to me. I was so sad. Are you happy? This adorable Ruoli. The prince couldn't help but tease her. You brought this on yourself. That small wound, you think it could hurt me? The two flirted and bickered, disregarding the occasion. The emperor couldn't stand it. You two actually conspired to deceive me. If we hadn't, how could we make imperial brother lower your guard? After saying that, the emperor felt even more hatred and snatched a knife from a nearby guard. He furiously charged towards the prince, wanting to fight to the death. Clearly, the emperor was overestimating himself. Even Qingjun wasn't the prince's match, let alone a useless emperor. He couldn't even touch the prince before being disarmed. Imperial brother, you should surrender. Otherwise, the truth about the late emperor's poisoning will be made public, and you will be completely doomed. The emperor looked at the prince viciously. He didn't expect the prince to know about the late emperor's poisoning. Instantly, he deflated like a punctured balloon and collapsed to the ground, his eyes dull. You know everything. The imperial guard, who pretended to be the prince in the prison, was now panicking. He had just raised his knife when Qingjun knocked it away. He grabbed his hand, twisted it, and broke it. This hand once hurt Ruoli. With his last hope shattered, the emperor completely broke down and laughed wildly. I've lost. Completely lost. Even with his last breath, the late emperor was calling your name, Xiaoyao. The emperor never considered the prince his brother, but in the end, the prince still considered their brotherhood and only had him taken away and imprisoned, without harming his life. Ruoli comforted the prince. Don't be sad. A cruel person like him, driven mad by power, is not worth your sadness, even if he is your brother. Before the prince could respond to Ruoli, Minister Liu knelt before him. The prince hurriedly asked Minister Liu, what is the meaning of this? Minister Liu requested the prince to ascend the throne. After all, a country cannot be without a ruler. In addition, the prince was virtuous, benevolent, and skilled in both literary and martial arts, making him the most suitable candidate. Of course, there were also opposing opinions. They felt that although the prince had rendered meritorious service to the country, the late emperor's edict stated that Zun Yi should inherit the throne. Therefore, this matter still needed to be discussed with the Empress Dowager. Now the officials were divided into two factions, arguing amongst themselves. One faction supported the prince ascending the throne, while the other wanted the Empress Dowager to make the decision. Ruoli also curiously asked, do you want to be emperor? In fact, the late emperor originally intended to pass the throne to the prince, but the edict was tampered with. Now that Zun Yi had no chance of recovery, the prince didn't want to exploit the situation. Moreover, he now had Ruoli and Xiao Xiao. Once he became emperor, he would have too many responsibilities. Living a peaceful life like this wasn't necessarily a bad thing. The officials were still arguing. They felt that although the emperor was immoral, the empress had already given birth to his child, who should inherit the throne according to tradition. At this crucial moment, the champion of the previous palace power struggle, the Empress Dowager, arrived and rejected the officials' proposal. Because the empress was a concubine. According to tradition, only a prince of pure blood could inherit the throne. and the Empress Dowager's opinion was paramount. However, the Empress Dowager already had a suitable candidate. That was Consort Wan, because she was also pregnant with the Empress child. The Empress Dowager announced that the imperial physician had reported that Consort Wan was 3 months pregnant. If she could give birth to a prince, he would be established as the new emperor. At this moment, Consort Wan was extremely proud. She had committed many wrongdoings, but wouldn't be punished. Instead, she would gain power through her son. Looking at the triumphant Consort Wan, Ruoli knew that if her child became emperor, she and the prince would probably have no peace. She had to think of a way. It wasn't just Ruoli who was unhappy, but also the empress. She had been betrayed and wanted to kill Consort Wan. You, Wan Karen. How dare you betray me? I clearly gave you contraceptive medicine, yet you secretly conceived a child. Consort Wan screamed and desperately called for the Empress Dowager to save her. The empress was driven mad by resentment, because everything she had suffered was due to Consort Wan's schemes. And now, Consort Wan would escape punishment and gain power through her son. This was what she couldn't accept the most. Just then, the prince threw a small knife, cutting the empress' raised hand. He saved Consort Wan from the emperor. It was because of brotherly love that the prince didn't want to hurt the emperor further. Consort Wan was carrying his brother's child, so he saved her. The empress was immediately put under control, but even now, her arrogance remained. Let me go. I am the empress. Consort Wan, whose fate was uncertain, didn't expect the prince to save her. She repeatedly thanked him. The prince said nothing and returned to Ruoli's side. Ruoli was a little jealous and half-jokingly said, "You weren't this eager when you saved her." The prince quickly explained, "Don't misunderstand. I only acted out of consideration for the royal heir." Ruoli chuckled, "I'm just kidding. I'm not that petty. After all, the child is innocent." But just now, the prince's heroic act stirred up unexpected emotions in Consort Wan's heart. If I had known the prince was feigning indifference, I would have agreed to marry him back then. How could I let Wan Ruoli, this simpleton, have him so easily? At this moment, the Empress Dowager suddenly spoke. The Empress, narrow-minded and cruel, colluded with foreign enemies to harm the royal family. By the decree of the Empress Dowager, the Empress is hereby deposed. She is to be imprisoned in the cold palace, and never allowed to enter the imperial grounds again. The Empress hadn't expected the Empress Dowager to act so swiftly and decisively. She felt like she'd been used and discarded. Struggling fiercely, she yelled, "The Zun family's throne was won by my ruined family. And now you want to hand it over to those sand bandits. Dream on." The Empress broke down, crying, "Father, you must avenge me." Then, she threw herself against a stone pillar and killed herself. Ruoli gasped. She hadn't expected the Empress to be so extreme. The prince sighed deeply. She brought this upon herself. With the Empress dead and the obstacle removed, the Empress Dowager immediately wanted to finalize Chujun's ascension to the throne. Li immediately stepped forward and said he had something to say. Consort Wan committed many wrongdoings with the Empress. If she is simply exempted from punishment, I fear there will be endless trouble later. We should investigate thoroughly first. Ruoli was about to announce her pregnancy and claim the title of Chujun's mother, securing her position. Ruoli's intervention made Consort Wan furious. Ruoli then detailed how Consort Wan and the Empress, vying for favor, resorted to unscrupulous means and colluded with enemy spies. If they are not investigated, I fear the citizens will be resentful and the soldiers will lose morale. Now, Ruoli, once known as the Demoness, was hailed as a divine maiden. Everything she said resonated with the officials. The Empress Dowager asked Ruoli, "How do you think Consort Wan should be dealt with?" "Every crime Consort Wan has committed should be punished according to imperial law," Ruoli answered. Consort Wan panicked. Imperial law meant death. Empress Dowager, save me. I'm carrying the royal heir. Ruoli stepped forward and reassured Consort Wan, "Precisely because you're carrying a royal heir, your death sentence can be commuted, but you won't escape punishment. Evil deeds eventually lead to retribution." Consort Wan thought her pregnancy would shield her, but she was confined to the palace until Chujun's birth. Afterward, she would be sent to the nunnery. A nation cannot be without a ruler. The Empress Dowager and the prince became regents, with the Empress Dowager managing state affairs and the prince commanding the army. As for Emperor Zunyi, due to his incompetence, impotence, and tyranny, he was impeached by officials in a joint petition. He was stripped of his imperial title and confined to the Eastern Palace for life to reflect on his wrongdoings. Now that the Emperor, Empress, and Consort Wan had received their retribution, could Ruoli and the prince finally live a happy and peaceful life? Of course not. Greater dangers lay ahead. The prince returned to his manor to tend to his wounds from the palace beating. Ruoli brought many healing ointments. Apply both internally and externally. It'll heal faster. The prince had been severely beaten in the palace, but had made prior arrangements to ensure his safe return. Ruoli looked at the prince's wounds, her heart aching. Does it hurt a lot? Unable to bear it, her hands trembled as she touched his wounds. The prince hid his pain, not wanting Ruoli to worry. He feigned lightness and asked if Ruoli liked the gift he had sent. Ruoli remembered the red jade carved pig and smiled sweetly. The pig held a hidden message: the prince's plan for rebellion. Ruoli had discovered it but feigned ignorance, pretending she hadn't seen the message. The prince suddenly grabbed Ruoli's hand and pulled her closer. Ruoli pushed him away in a fluster. Don't think you can get away with anything just because your wounds are healing. The prince leaned closer, asking again if she'd seen the message. Flustered and unable to resist his closeness, Ruoli admitted she had. The prince was puzzled. Then why did you still dare to go through with the wedding? Ruoli explained that she knew the prince was planning a rebellion, a risky endeavor that could lead to execution. She decided to act as bait, pretending to comply with the marriage, waiting for the opportune moment to turn the tables. When the time comes, it won't be certain who is the hunter and who is the prey. That makes sense, but do you know how dangerous that was? What if you had really? Ruoli stopped him. I'm fine now, aren't I? And I knew you would come and save me. The prince tenderly asked, will you be my true princess? Having faced life and death together, they had seen through the thin veil of pretense. Nothing could stop their love now. Royal children were entitled to study at the Imperial Academy, and Xiao Xiao was no exception. On his way home, he was stopped. Xiao Xiao politely asked, Prince Qing and Prince Cheng, what is the matter? They mocked him. You're just Regent Prince's adopted son. Nothing special. Someone of unknown origins like you doesn't deserve to be in the Imperial Academy. Xiao Xiao, the sole surviving son of Prince Qin, now cherished by the prince and Ruoli, felt a strong sense of belonging. Angrily, he retorted, I'm not a nobody. The two princes continued their taunts. Staying at the prince's manor for so long, you really think you're his real son? I think the regent prince doesn't consider you his son at all. He only. Before they could finish, their insults enraged Xiao Xiao, and he lunged at them. The three boys started fighting. Outnumbered, Xiao Xiao was struggling. Suddenly, a stone flew from afar and hit Prince Qing on the head. Who dares sneak attack this prince? The fight stopped. All three boys were bruised and scratched. Qing Jun stood on the roof. How can 2 against 1 be called a sneak attack? Brat, what are you standing there for? Come here. Qing Jun, though speaking harshly, clearly cared for Xiao Xiao. Xiao Xiao hesitated but knew Qing Jun was protecting him. He went over. Prince Cheng was you had to ask for help because you couldn't beat us. Are you even a man? Qing Jun clenched his fist. Does being a few years older make you a man? He quickly taught the two princes a lesson. See if you dare bully Xiao Xiao again. Xiao Xiao gave him a thumbs up. Wow, so cool. The two princes, now sporting bumps on their heads, quieted down. Qing Jun told Xiao Xiao, did you learn your lesson? You must learn to protect yourself. Xiao Xiao nodded seriously. Then, before sending Xiao Xiao back to the manor, Qing Jun told him to tell his mother that he had to leave for a while and not to miss him too much. Xiao Xiao said, although you've helped my mother a lot, and I should thank you, my mother is already taken. Xiao Xiao's cuteness made Qing Jun laugh. You little rascal, you're too concerned about me liking your mother. He left quickly. This time, Xiao Xiao's impression of Qing Jun had changed. What a strange uncle. At the manor, Ruoli was busy experimenting. The prince returned and, seeing a table full of colorful, fragrant things, asked curiously, what are you doing? Ruoli excitedly explained that she would be participating in a cosmetics competition at the Powder Rouge Institute the next day, and was experimenting. Ruoli was using the leaves the prince gave her to make all-natural cosmetics. The prince supported her but was puzzled. Is this the finished product? Ruoli mysteriously introduced it. This is leaf rouge, extracted from the pulp of the fruit. It's delicious. Are you making cosmetics or food? Ruoli responded mysteriously, it's called dual purpose. Then she asked if the prince knew that Qingjun had left Dongsheng. Hearing his wife mention another man, especially one who had confessed his feelings for her, made the prince uneasy. He forced a casual tone and said Xiao Xiao had already told him. Unaware of the prince's inner turmoil, Ruoli continued, that petty guy will definitely come back to seek revenge for me using him for birth control. The prince's jealousy intensified. You seem to know him very well. Ruoli finally realized, you're jealous again. The prince denied it, but his actions betrayed him. He scooped Ruoli up and carried her to their room. Daji teased Ruoli, you and the prince have been quite close lately. Mind your own business, kid, Ruoli retorted. Being called a kid offended Daji. I'm a researcher. It took me decades to develop this high-tech stuff. I'm your elder, not a kid. Show some respect. The next day, Ruoli took her finished products to the Powder Rouge Institute. Daji was even more excited than Ruoli because the institute housed many ancient cosmetic techniques. Upon arrival, they learned the institute's director wouldn't arrive until later. Daji suddenly noticed a servant girl's chapped lips. Due to the dry weather, the servant girl was suffering. Ruoli immediately offered her the lip balm. This can soothe and moisturize your lips. The servant girl gratefully accepted and applied it. Not only did it smell pleasant, but her lips instantly became hydrated. The servant girl exclaimed, it's amazing. The next second, the lip balm was snatched from her hand. The newcomer was Chen Shui, the director of the institute, clearly impressed by the balm's effectiveness. She threw it on the ground. Institute rules state that any cosmetic not approved by the institute, regardless of its effectiveness, is forbidden. The servant girl pleaded for forgiveness. Ruoli's hard work was wasted. However, Chen Shui was unrelenting and ordered the servant girl punished. Wait a minute. Ruoli slammed her teacup on the table and stood up. You destroyed my things without even an apology. She was ready to defend the servant girl. Although Chen Shui, the head of the Fanfang Cosmetic House, acted aloof, she still feigned an apology to the prince and princess of Shizeng. However, she declared that anything applied to the face, from base makeup to finishing touches, could only use products made by Fanfang Cosmetic House. She emphasized that this was according to the imperial regulations. If anyone used something of unknown origin and suffered adverse effects, Fanfang Cosmetic House would be held responsible for negligence. Xiaji wanted to punch her, but was calmed down by Ruoli. We understand Madame Cheng's concerns, but now it's April, and the pure is making people suffer. I just want to offer a little help. But Cheng Shui didn't appreciate the gesture. This house has already produced ample amounts of heat-clearing balm based on the Imperial Hospital's prescription, and distributed it to the various palaces. There's no need for the princess to worry, Ruoli insisted, even though the heat-clearing balm might provide some temporary relief, pure isn't caused by heat. Using the balm treats the symptoms, not the root cause. Cheng Shui retorted, enough, princess. Are you questioning the Imperial Hospital's decision? Bai Li Ma remained silent. Since the prince was the prince of Shizeng, he didn't want any unnecessary trouble that could affect him. Cheng Shui then instructed her personal maid to escort the little palace maid, Xiaoxiang, away for punishment. The maid arrogantly grabbed Xiaoxiang. Tears welled up in Xiaoxiang's eyes. Freeing herself from the maid's grasp, she ran to Ruoli, pleading for help. Her mother was seriously ill at home, and she relied on her meager palace earnings for her mother's medical treatment. If she lost her job, they would have no way to survive. Ruoli reassured her, telling her not to worry. The little girl's punishment stemmed from the foolish knife she had given her, so naturally, Ruoli wouldn't stand idly by. She then softly asked Cheng Shui, if I can enter Fanfang Cosmetic House, can Xiaoxiang's punishment be waived? Cheng Shui confirmed, but with a condescending look. Fanfang Cosmetic House has always adhered to strict talent selection criteria. Even if you are the princess, you must first undergo an assessment in cosmetic making. There are no exceptions. Xiaji was angered again by Cheng Zui's words. Ruoli, let's show these ancient people what we can do. Ruoli then asked Cheng Shui to arrange the assessment as soon as possible. She also selected the palace maid from earlier, Xiaoxiang, to stay by her side until the assessment results were out. Afterwards, Ruoli followed Xiaoxiang back to her dilapidated home. Xiaoxiang's frail mother was deeply apologetic for only being able to offer them a cup of hot tea. Ruoli concealed her identity, cheerfully claiming she and Xiaoxiang were friends, urging her not to fuss. Xiaoxiang nodded happily, planning to buy some snacks. Afraid of attracting attention, she asked Ruoli to wait at her home while she quickly returned. Ruoli praised Xiaoxiang for being a thoughtful child, but because of this errand, Xiaoxiang ran into trouble. A man approached and grabbed Xiaoxiang's arm. "I've finally found you. Where's the money you promised?" Xiaoxiang pleaded with him to be lenient. Her mother was seriously ill and had incurred significant medical expenses. She promised to pay him once she received her wages this month. The man impatiently knocked the snack box from Xiaoxiang's hands, pushing her to the ground. "You have money to buy snacks, but no money to repay your debts. Who are you trying to fool?" Xiaoxiang tried to explain, but the man wouldn't listen. He even crushed the snacks Xiaoxiang had bought with the money she had scraped together. Enraged, he threatened to take Xiaoxiang away and force her to repay the debt with her body. Just as disaster was about to strike, Ruoli arrived, knocking the man to the ground. "You disgusting thug. How dare you bully Xiaoxiang? You're asking for a beating." She shielded Xiaoxiang and gave the man a sound thrashing. Ruoli then comforted Xiaoxiang. Worried because Xiaoxiang hadn't returned for so long, she was relieved she had arrived in time. Xiaoxiang was terrified and, forgetting the difference in their status, burst into tears in Ruoli's arms. After comforting her for a while, Ruoli asked how she had gotten involved with such a scoundrel. It turned out that Xiaoxiang's mother's illness required a lot of money. She had asked this man to help her secure a higher-paying position within the palace, promising him a portion of her earnings each month. But as her mother's condition worsened, she couldn't afford to pay him anymore. Now, he wanted to force her into prostitution. If she were expelled from the palace, she would have no means of survival. Ruoli comforted Xiaoxiang, assuring her that she would pass the assessment and wouldn't be expelled. She also gave Xiaoxiang money for her mother's medical treatment and living expenses. Meanwhile, Cheng Shui was already plotting against Ruoli. After all, Ruoli's skincare products had previously earned the Empress Dowager's favor. Cheng Shui wouldn't let Ruoli pass the assessment and join Fanfeng Cosmetic House to rival her. So, she decided to make the assessment a competition, pitting herself against Ruoli. Confident that she could make Ruoli utterly defeated, the day of the competition arrived quickly, and the on-site cosmetic making competition officially began. Everyone whispered, wondering whether the princess or Madame Cheng would win. Ruoli, as usual, used coconut as her main ingredient, extracting the coconut flesh. She then ground the coconut flesh, filtered the extract, and put it in a pot to simmer. Once the water had completely evaporated and the residue in the pot solidified, she obtained coconut oil. However, despite promising a fair competition and boasting about defeating Ruoli, Cheng Shui had tampered with the ingredients provided to Ruoli. She even notified the Empress Dowager to attend, because the leaves Ruoli usually used, common in the Western Sheng Kingdom, were considered exotic in the Eastern Sheng Kingdom. Cheng Shui's aim wasn't just to win the competition, but also to have the Empress Dowager punish Ruoli for disrespect. By now, Xie Ji had also discovered Cheng Shui's sabotage, and was furious. All the rose petals given to them were withered and decaying, unusable for making good flower balm. Ruoli was also enraged. How despicable to resort to such underhanded tactics. Now, they faced a problem. Without flower balm for color, their finished product would appear inferior at first glance. Given Cheng Shui's methods, asking her for fresh petals was out of the question. They had to find another way. Suddenly, spotting a palace maid delivering carrots, Ruoli had an idea. She had found a substitute for color. Although she didn't have rose petals, Ruoli had found a replacement. Carrots. While orange was lighter than red, it was more than enough to enhance the complexion. Moreover, carrots were rich in vitamins B and C, making them perfect for treating facial blemishes. After some processing, Ruoli completed her pure ointment. Just then, the Empress Dowager arrived. "Everyone, rise. I heard from the prince that you've developed a cosmetic that can cure pure. I came to have a look." "No need to be nervous." Cheng Shui immediately presented both finished products. "Please examine them, Your Majesty." Ruoli explained, "The Imperial Hospital believes pure is caused by heat, so I used a mixture of borneol and mint to create a cooling and soothing effect." The Empress Dowager opened Cheng Shui's product. Seeing the exquisite texture and delicate floral fragrance, she was greatly pleased and praised her. "It seems Madame Cheng is quite skilled. I underestimated her before." Xie Ji quickly reassured Ruoli, "Don't worry, ours is just as good." The Empress Dowager then examined Ruoli's ointment. She was equally pleased with its rich, vibrant color, as radiant as the clouds. Cheng Xue's maid quickly whispered to her, asking what to do now that their plan had failed. Cheng Xue immediately feigned praise for Ruoli's dedication, while subtly revealing that Ruoli had used holy fruit in her cosmetic. Everyone was shocked. Ruoli was bewildered. Holy fruit? I don't know what you're talking about. The Empress Dowager was furious. Audacious princess. You dare to steal the tribute from Bailu Kingdom. Bailu Kingdom sends holy fruit as tribute every year. By stealing it, are you trying to sabotage the relationship between our two nations? What do you have to say for yourself? Ruoli was still confused. The leaves were clearly given to me by Qin Jun. I even used them to make leaf chicken several times. How did they become holy fruit in the palace? Remembering her most beautiful pill incident, Bai Li Ma immediately stepped forward. Your Majesty, please calm down. Access to the storeroom is strictly controlled. Whether the holy fruit is missing can be easily verified. Surprised by Ruoli's quick thinking, the Empress Dowager ordered someone to investigate. Everyone waited for the results. Ruoli told Xie to discreetly follow Cheng Xue. Having witnessed her schemes, they had to prevent her from causing further trouble. As expected, Cheng Xue and her maid were discussing how to frame Ruoli. Cheng Xue knew the Empress Dowager hated any dealings with foreign countries. So, whether the holy fruit was stolen or otherwise acquired, as long as she planted seeds of doubt in the Empress Dowager's mind, Ruoli would be punished one way or another. She instructed her maid to create a diversion when reporting to the Empress Dowager, leading her to suspect Ruoli. Then, in a fit of rage, she crushed the pure ointment made by Ruoli. Even if your ointment can cure pure, so what? I've worked so hard to get to this position. I won't allow anyone to threaten it. Such a selfish and insidious woman, harming others for such a petty reason. I won't let you succeed. At that moment, the Empress Dowager's confidant returned and reported the findings. The holy fruit in the storeroom was untouched. Ruoli was innocent. The Empress Dowager asked her to rise. Cheng Xue's maid was about to speak when Ruoli preempted her, pleading guilty. Cheng Xue cursed under her breath, useless. You let her get ahead of you. Ruoli's action puzzled the Empress Dowager. Princess, what do you mean? Ruoli tearfully explained, pure is rampant, causing suffering to the people. I wanted to alleviate your majesty and the prince's worries, so I've been searching for a cure. I heard that the holy fruit of Bailu Kingdom has miraculous effects, so I foolishly used it to make the pure ointment. However, I knew the holy fruit was a tribute and shouldn't be used, so I spent a fortune buying a few from a Bailu merchant. I deserve punishment for my transgression. I beg your majesty for mercy. Ruoli's confession not only dispelled the Empress Dowager's suspicion, but also moved her. She helped Ruoli up. Then, she turned her anger towards Cheng Xue. You falsely accused the princess. What do you have to say for yourself? Cheng Xue panicked and pleaded for forgiveness, claiming it was a misunderstanding and not intentional. Her maid also quickly pleaded for leniency from the Empress Dowager and the princess. Cheng Xue surprisingly didn't hate Ruoli for her inferior strength, but rather her own useless personal maid. If that good-for-nothing wasn't so incompetent, I wouldn't have been punished by the Empress Dowager. This doja dog show greatly amused Xie, relieving his pent-up frustration. However, Ruoli didn't intend to let Cheng Xue off the hook. Such a vicious woman is better dealt with sooner rather than later.